everyone, welcome to Frame Trap. Today I am joined by the smiling Brandon Jones.
Yeah.
And the chuckling Michael Huber.
Hello.
What up, Chuckles?
What's up, little chuckles? I'll be your host, Ben Moore, and I think it's safe to say that this is the Monster Hunter episode. The cage is opened. We can talk about the full game. No restrictions. Everybody's out there playing it, so it's gonna be.
I was pondering my Rise memes. I was like, rising or rise? What's the title gonna be of this Frame Trap episode? I wonder. Trying to get in my Ben Moore meme head.
Yeah, I wanted to do something with Rise, but I actually did that already with the demo episode. Yeah, I did Monstrous Rise because we were talking about. I think we were talking about Resident Evil Village and Monster Hunter Rise, and so that's where that came from. So this one, the title of this episode is Hunting Bliss.
Nice.
Thought it was appropriate.
It is blissful.
It is blissful. But yeah, this is going to be, like I said, kind of a Monster Hunter themed episode. And so I thought opening it up, it's a bit of a fun question. If you could add one creature to Monster Hunter, like no restrictions whatsoever, any creature, who would it be?
Bowser.
The Predator.
Yeah, we talked about that. Predator. Would the Predator be hunting you?
Well, I mean, aren't they kind of hunting you in a way? You know, they flee a lot, but yeah, it'd be fun if it was just there was no assignment or anything. Like it was not like a mission you could go on. He's out there, you know, past trees.
You just see like you just see like bodies in the trees and stuff. That'd be cool.
Oh my god, villagers, calicos.
Yeah. Oh no, palicos are too far. Palicos is too far, but yeah, that'd be pretty good. I think like an alien queen would be good too.
Ooh,
oh, hell yeah.
Gotta go deep.
I was hoping they were gonna add that for Fortnite, but it didn't happen.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad I didn't set my expectations there. That would have been sweet. Oh.
Did they just add Lara Croft to Tomb Raider?
Mm-hmm.
Or not to Tomb Raider. Of course she's in Tomb Raider. To Fortnite. Right. That's what I'm trying to say.
They did the Predator thing in like the jungle area. So
did they?
He hunted you down.
Did you get
go in there?
His weapons and stuff?
You can. Yeah, you get his like claw weapon thing.
Oh, awesome.
And there's a taunt where you can like take his mask off. It's cool. And he like roars.
I wish we got. I think it'd be actually sick to have like just straight up Godzilla in Monster Hunter, just like some sort of crossover event. I mean, he'd be absolutely massive.
I just think anyone Capcom. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Just like if you announce a Dino Crisis remake, you just put a T-Rex in.
Yeah,
just a classic,
That'd
not a Devil Joe or anything, just a T-Rex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm hopeful. Like, I'm just based on, the last couple of years of World, right? That recent track record. I'm optimistic for the future of Rise, and so I hope there's some fun stuff because there was really fun stuff in World. The Resident Evil event, Huber was great.
Yeah.
If Dragon's Dogma ever comes back, that seems like primed to happen. Jones, after your recent Dragon's Dogma experience, would you be like immediately in on a Dragon's Dogma 2?
Probably, yeah.
Nice.
I mean, unless they did some weird departure or something that I was not familiar with. But it's like the only thing holding me back from just like really pouring myself into Dogma is just work. Just other stuff I got to do. Yeah. But that especially because we're not here to talk about Dragon's Dogma, but was not aware that I had the capabilities of buying a free pawn that was far more leveled than I would ever get in this game, and I could just from range just watch this like
the
absolute unit just to completely rip that game in half.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Well, let's dig in. To Monster Hunter.
I'm kind of doing that in Monster Hunter because I got my my dog and my cat that I'm still at range,
Yeah.
Using my
Are you using
heavy bow gun?
Heavy bow gun? Nice.
Yeah. And so it's fun to see Sophie and Norbert just to get in the start scrapping away.
Oh, Brandon, that's perfect for the names.
I wasn't gonna do it because I'm like, I don't know how I feel about riding Sophie. Like it seems a little strange. Just, like, going through the woods.
I get that.
And then I was going through the ears, and they had like Sophie's ears, and I'm like, all right, well. Oh well, we're doing this.
That's actually a good point about the Palamutes because like they're super thin creatures, and some of the armor that you can wear, you look like a walking tank.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. especially if you got like a heavy bow gun strapped to you. That's got to be pretty heavy. But yeah, I got to obviously say quite a bit of my piece about Monster Hunter Rise in the review. And so I just kind of want to open up the floor to you guys. Brandon, I think this is your first Monster Hunter.
I played World I think I actually was the first of the Ellis to play World because I played it at PAX.
Must be nice.
Like the first time it was demoed, yeah, and then I really, really enjoyed it. And then I want to say I played it again, but I don't think it's in my library, so I don't think I ever actually like pulled the trigger. But and it's the system of how Monster Hunter works is just like perfect for me. It's just like you jump in, you do a thing, and then you're done. And if you have time, you do another one, and you're slowly, incrementally making your way up the gear ladder. And there's just a lot of fun directions to pull yourself in, a lot of rewards after you finish missions, and the world is really pretty. It's just it's very focused on stuff that I just love doing in games anyway. And so the thing about World was I'm like, I don't dare get into this. I get in hard, or I don't get it at all.
Yeah.
So I think I didn't have an excuse this time around. It was like I feel like I'm ready. I definitely feel like I missed out on World. No regrets, because I'm happy of all the other games that I played in the time that I would have played World. But I think it's time for me to dabble. It's time for me to hunt.
It's also one of those things where, and I feel like a lot of games are this way, where I think jumping in at the beginning is the best way to go, because then it's not like, oh God, like I have to get through all of the base game stuff and this DLC and all, like it's just, you're at the starting line. And I think that helps for sure. And it's funny because we've been playing Diablo 3, Huber, last couple of weeks. And I feel like the loot in Diablo 3, I'm just pretty much looking at the stats. It's not that you can't look cool. There's definitely very cool looking gear in Diablo 3, and you can transmog things and stuff. But that's what's so exciting about Monster Hunter loot, is just like how dramatic of a visual difference it is between the different monsters' armor and weapons. It's really cool.
Just that ownership of hunting some cool looking beast and then wearing its parts.
Yeah.
The connection to your world. Like that. I mean, that really doesn't happen a lot in even like in MMOs and stuff. It's like if you go after a boss in a raid and the boss drops something, like that stuff will be themed to the DLC or to the region, but not to that boss. It's not like, oh yeah, that's what he would have on him, They don't really contextualize a lot of that stuff. But so it's very sad. When I started to see that, where I was like, oh, if I want a set, I can just go do that mission. I can just say like, yeah, I want to go hunt one of those things. Yep. Or if I'm focused on another mission and I see that monster that I recognize, I like being able to see them all on the map and the way all that works. We played a bunch of the 3DS version too. That was it. I was like, there's got to be, or not the 3DS, the ultimate version of a 3DS game that
Generations
came out on
Ultimate
Switch.
on Switch. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. We did a group stream of that.
Yeah.
So
I was recently reminded of that group stream. I feel like I had blanked it out or something. But with Rise, and this is Monster Hunter in general, but again, like talking about the acquisition of loot, something that I think is so satisfying is that to get some of the loot, you need to do specific things, or you have a better chance of getting some parts if you do specific things. So it's like, well, you need to break the claws, or you need to break the head, or cut off the tail. And that, just modifies the hunt a little bit. It gives you something to focus on. It gives you like a little bit of a challenge as you're trying to piece stuff together.
That it encourages you to work with others, like cutting off tails. I use a hammer, so that's not my specialty. So it encourages me to, find someone who can cut a tail off and share those rewards.
How are you guys feeling just in terms of mechanics? Because we were talking about it during the stream, because I was explaining what affinity was, and I'm like thinking to myself, like, I don't know that the game does a great job of explaining like some of these concepts. Like, you could get by at the beginning without knowing some of this stuff, but obviously like your experience is improved if you kind of know more of the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, Infinity's confusing, and like because I played World, I know to look at the sharpness color. Like if I didn't know that, the game has not told me that at all, and I know how important like getting that next color of sharpness is. So that to me has been the biggest omission from a novice player of just like learning the game, I feel like it should mention that without having to like dig into the menu. It should be like, yo, concentrate on like this stat, because that'll help you get, because I fought a
Kezu.
I fought a Kezu, which is just a bioorganic weapon from Resident Evil. That's all it is. Like,
it's a weird looking thing.
Umbrella made this creature.
Yeah.
I was like trying to hit it. Its head is really weak, but then like when I got the wings and stuff, it would just bounce off. And I was like, see, I bet if this was sharper, I could just unload. But I really had to like pick my spots.
Yep.
So, but overall, I think Ben, it's been a little easier for me to get into, obviously, because this is my second Monster Hunter. But World did not, and you were telling me that this is from games in the past, but World did not have this separation of single player and multiplayer.
Correct. Yeah.
And this is helping me so much, learning at my own pace. When I can't group up with friends, I can just focus on the single player side. I can do, gathering quests, hunting small creatures quests.
Yeah.
I can really learn, take my time, and I like that aspect, because with World, anytime I was playing on my own, I felt like I was missing out. It was like, I should be playing as a group. It goes faster, it's better. But this, I don't feel like I'm missing anything at all, because it is this separate side of the game. So I really like that.
Yeah, what's nice about the village quests is a few things. I feel like it is just a perfect way to kind of get you into the swing of things and build your confidence. So when you do get into the hub quests, you feel prepared, which is really, really nice. And it doesn't take that much time. Like you can breeze through them pretty quickly, which is nice. And you no longer have to deal with the awkward, terrible situations in World where we would be trying to group up, but you would have to go and watch the cutscene first, and then we could get together, and it just was cumbersome in a way that didn't make any sense and was a giant pain in the ass. And here, so far, just getting in with everybody and getting going and moving has been great. It's been very convenient for sure.
Yeah. Shout out to the biomes as well. I just got to the desert one, the sandy plains, man.
Yeah.
Just got to the sandy plains, and this is a zone I tend to not really like, just brown desert everywhere. But using the wire bug to traverse this area is so fun. There's really high peaks. I like went up to this shrine at the top of some place and got some little lore up there.
Yeah.
You can go all the way down into like caves and stuff. Just a really fun environment to zip around in. Yeah.
Honestly, exploring has been just as much fun for me as fighting monsters. And looking at your map, it's really easy to find things if you're looking for honey or whatever it is you're looking for. Like, it's pretty much right there. But even though you kind of always know where stuff generally is, just getting there is so much fun. Like figuring out the path up and like trying to see if you have enough stamina to run up a wall, or getting an extra wire bug so you can, go even farther. All of that stuff. It's just a blast. Like, it's so easy to get like a small goal in mind, like I'm going to go hunt this thing, or I'm going to go over here and collect something, and then get distracted by like 10 other things and end up, somewhere else.
That last, like when you finish a quest and it's about to boot you out, but there's that last minute dash of like, gather everything.
Right.
Like, give me all this stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And especially when you capture it, you have so much less time. Yeah. Brandon, how has it been for you? How has the heavy bowgun been treating you? How have the monsters been? All that good stuff.
Well, the bowgun was interesting because that was when we played the demo. I was just like, all of a sudden, like, oh my goodness, why I didn't know this like aliens, like heavy gun type of like this mood was available in Monster. This feels like cheating almost. I can just sit back and just boom, 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 boom. And I'm definitely more acquainted now with ammo types versus like what I should use that against. I'm not necessarily that familiar. And it's the kind of thing where like they give you a lot of ammo when you first start out, and I've like used all of it just experimenting. And so now I'm like, all right, I don't know if I really want to like spend resources on something if I don't know I'm going to get that, that huge of a benefit from it. So I've just kind of slowly taken, my way through it. I like the, what was interesting is I thought I would love the bow, because I usually like go after bows in every game, and that doesn't necessarily mean I'm really going to click with it. But there was something, it was just a lot heavier. I think like all the ranged weapons, there definitely is kind of like a heaviness to it. They're not like that fast. Like you don't move that, generally you don't move that fast, which is why the wire bug is such a big deal in this game. And so I figured like if I'm just standing still and not moving that fast, and I really need to like see if I can find a cozy position and not have things bother me, and then really just like damage, I'd rather have this gigantic gun. Like it just feels more satisfying just to just wail on things with that guy. But I don't remember what my first wire bug move is, but the second one is just, while I have the gun out, just that like I want to go over there, wire bug, yoink, and that is like so helpful. Not for a quick dodge, but if I like if a monster looks at me and I can tell like, oh, here he comes, I can just wait till right before he starts to move, and then like very clean, get out of the way. And so it's been, I really haven't had any struggles beyond just like, that's the button that sheathes, that's the button that pulls the weapon out. There's just a lot of rote memorization that I just got to like commit to get really cozy with it, especially when I'm like jumping around to like open world games and Avengers and playing all this different stuff, like to get back into Monster Hunter. It's like, oh right,
a good 2 hours of tutorial pop-ups.
Sure, yeah. And even just the learning what the different quests are and how weapons upgrade. I messed that up because I like regressed a weapon when I was like, wait a minute, it's going to the right, I didn't know. Okay, but fun to learn, and just like I said, it's just so accessible in terms of what you're doing on any given level. Everything, specifically the thing that I'm going after, whether it's a resource or a monster, is very clear, and it's really a joy to. I don't know what it's like to be a melee class. I remember when I used to do that in MMOs, I would just, so many of the things we were fighting were so huge. It's like, I'm sure this thing was cool, but all I see is an ankle. It's literally like all I'm looking at. So from range, it's just nice to see again, my Palamute and my Palico just like tearing it up. And I think one of the last things I went after is that big bird, like the parasol bird, that kind of like Falcon will block itself.
Yeah.
And just the way it moves is so cool. Like another monster will come in and fight it, and it's a fun world to see in motion. I love just the exploration of a natural environment, and this is such an unusual place to be that it's fun to kind of, it feels like every second you're, wow, what is that thing? Whoa, something flying overhead, especially when you get into a new zone. So I love it.
Yeah. The monsters do have just tremendous personality, and it's fun seeing that stuff come out. Hubert, you're big, very big, infamously big on towns. How do you feel about Kimura Village?
It's good. I really like it. It's cozy. I love the music, man. I wanted to give a shout out.
The music is phenomenal. Yeah,
right from the get-go. The loading/gathering hub song, like when you finish a quest, the song it does. It's just, these songs are already stuck in my head.
You can also change the music in your house, which is very nice.
I know.
There's a lot of good stuff there.
I want to get some more decorations for the house, but I assume that's later on. But I'm like, I do every little quest. Like, I need to complete each star rank before I move on to the other one. It's just...
Oh, of course.
Got to, Jones.
You do like 1, and they're like, all right, you're ready for 2-star. Yeah, I'm like, slow down.
Yeah. I really
like some plants to pick up.
I really like the town. I wish... Like, I wish it was all open, but I get that it's not,
Yeah.
Like, you instance into... like the gathering, not instance, but like you load into the gathering hub. So it gives it like a little bit of separation. Other than that, though, amazing. But I would like to be like up in the gathering hub, like looking down at the town square and like see people running around. Like I love that, but
it does
just a little nitpick.
It's kind of a good and bad thing, because there's a tightness to it that makes it incredibly easy to get around.
Yeah, so easy.
And the way you can just easily, fast travel across the village is wonderful, of course. and that it's very convenient. It doesn't feel tremendously like a village. I think just, coming off of Iceborne, just because it's, a recent example, that to me felt like a little bit more of an actual base, and like the way kind of things like fed into each other. You know what I mean?
Like, I'll be over in the hot springs. Come get me when we're ready.
Yeah. But I still think aesthetically, it's just incredibly charming. Watching the felines, make the dongo and the guy with the long earlobes, just hanging out in the hub and stuff. So it's still
cozy
pretty jolly.
for sure.
Yeah,
Very cozy.
I want to talk to you guys about wyvern riding, which is kind of a new big thing. So there's not like the traditional mounting system that Monster Hunter has employed for a while. It's wyvern riding, where you actually take control of a beast, which on paper sounds incredibly exciting. Is it as exciting as it sounds?
Yes and no, Ben. I like that you can't just spam it. I felt like in World, I was just trying to mount. Let me roll down a hill and land on you so I can mount. And this is just like, I'm not even going to worry about that until the state is triggered to mount this thing. So I like that it's not my focus. And then when it does happen, it's like, oh, time to capitalize. So, I mean, I enjoy it. I can't really compare it to anything other than World. But I like that it just kind of happens and you have to react to it in the moment versus like planning it out. I know you can find those little bugs to kind of put it in that weakened state, but it still feels like it's more of a reactionary system.
Yeah, I think the thing that I like about it, both with mounting and then the Clutch Claw and Iceborne, like it doesn't really matter what you're fighting. Like you just kind of do the same thing. So like the way you bring a monster down when you mount it is like, you attack when it's not raging around, and then you hold still while it is raging. And then with the Clutch Claw, it's just like every monster. Okay, it's like, let's weaken these parts. We can be doing more damage. It was kind of like a one size fits all thing. And so the thing that I do like with wyvern riding is when you're controlling a monster, it feels a little bit different from the other monsters. Like obviously there's similarities, but they have different attacks and things. So if you are using it to attack another monster, it feels a little bit different. Obviously, like running them into the walls feels the same pretty much.
It feels so good. I love that urgency because you don't have much time, and it's like when you hit a wall, it'll make you go the other way. But it's like shit. If there's no wall right there,
you kind of need to
like that.
Like scope out. Like where am I going to be able to get the most? Yeah.
That's fun. Neat. Just dodging like right at the right time. And I love the presentation of the monsters, Ben. Just the videos they do before and the rhyme.
Oh, the opening videos are so great. Yeah,
like Fatal Frame vibes.
They wouldn't let us put any of them in the review, and I get that they don't want to spoil them for people because they are really cool. But I wish we could have just put like a snippet of an early Monster End because those opening videos are fantastic. They do it for the locations and the monsters, which is neat.
Yeah, the Azuros is just like drinking. There's something about like drinking blood or something. It's so nuts.
So Huber, and Brandon, I know you guys are into good video game stories. We spent a lot of time talking about video game stories. Not really much of a story going on in Rise at all. It's not the reason you're moving forward, I would say. Does that bother you at all?
Go ahead, Jones.
It wouldn't bother me if they didn't. It does take a bit like to get through. It does. You have to like manually exit tutorials. Like, do you want to leave the tutorial? Like, yeah, it's like the 20th tutorial window you gave me in the last 5 minutes. Like, I would very much like to leave it and play this game if that's cool. So there is like, it's one thing if they didn't have it and it was just very like you just go and talk to these people and go have fun, but like there definitely is like, oh, look at you, young scrapper, you're getting to be a better hunter. It's like we're doing this or we're not. Like, if you're not gonna have a story, don't waste my time. Like, let me just get in there and do this. But like there is kind of like there were some times where like meet a new vendor and I'm like, all right, like if all we're gonna do is buy and sell stuff to each other, then you're taking way more time on this than I think is justified. So this is not something, I did not set my expectations there. I was not going in being like, aha, finally I'm unlocking one of the chapters of the mighty Monster Hunter saga. But I think just the setup, and again, I've only put in like 3 or 4 hours, but like the setup of the stampede and from what I can tell, you always understand at least what the relationship any given town in a Monster Hunter game has with the environment, like why the world looks the way it does, and how these people react to it. And so I think that's kind of all you need.
Sure. Yeah.
And to echo what you were saying earlier, just kind of like the personality of the town. Like
right.
Everyone has so much energy, and they're always so happy to see you, and all the vendors just love their jobs so much, and they're all so passionate that like that gets me through it. If it was very like dull and there was no story, then you'd be like, okay, you just get me out of this town. I just want to get back to the next mission. But the characterizations come through, I think, well enough that I wouldn't be sad if it was there. I just I don't necessarily need it.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think I was more invested in the plot of World and Iceborne because like the cinematics and stuff. But I'm more invested in the characters and the vibes of Rise. I just get like Naruto Ninja Village energy from a lot of these characters, and like you got your Jiraiya and your Kakashi and the cool like twins that give you quests. So I like the characters and the energy and the mood more, and I think because there's also that single player side that helps me get invested in kind of what's going on because I'm just playing by myself, like listening, reading the dialogue, like taking my time.
Monster Hunter, I feel like, is always cheerful, but I feel like Kimura Village really reiterates that. Like, everybody's just so damn happy to be there and, like, help out. Like, they're just so thrilled about it. Like, it's like,
and happy for you.
Yeah.
So that it's not like you got a lot to learn, Mister. It's like you're a hunter. Congratulations.
You got a lot to learn.
Right.
Awesome.
It's like after I officially get my license and I'm like, all right, I'm good to go. It's like almost like every person I talk to after that's like, hey, heard the good news. All right.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm doing real good. Like I've finished like 5 missions. They're like, you're coming along, buddy. I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm doing real good.
That really helps the investment too. Is the dialogue boxes like trigger people every time you come back. Not every time, but a lot of the time when you come back to town.
Yeah, like somebody wants to talk to you, and it's very easy to
Yes.
see where all that stuff is. Yep.
Yes, sometimes they have quests. Sometimes they just give you things. Love that stuff.
Yeah. Maybe last thing to touch on now is the Rampage quests. Because like in the review, I compared them to the Siege quests in World, which I felt like kind of were such a slog because it didn't really feel like Monster Hunter anymore. It was just kind of like a boring wait for it to be over sort of thing. But I really like the Rampage quests, the tower defense nature of it. How do you feel about it, Huber?
Dude, it reminds me of the Siege, but like an arena combined, kind of like in the middle ground.
It's like a Siege you have to think about.
Yeah, I loved it. We just did that one on stream, and I cannot.
And I haven't played
this,
this, but I watched you guys stream that, and that was. I mean, I love tower defense, so I'm like,
that was a blast. My only question, Ben, is if they get to the point where you need to think about what you put and where, or does that not ever really matter? You just throw your turrets down and unload. Because I would love it if the final ones were like, okay, Jones, you work on getting a Gatling gun in the northeast. Like, Ben, you work about getting a cannon in the front lines to get the small, if you really had to coordinate that. But like,
I think it's the 6-star urgent quest, I want to say. Hub quest, where I did a Rampage with other reviewers online, and it was definitely the most intense. Like, the Apex monster was at the gate, breaking it down, and we had to like wait because there's a call that they'll do, and it's like, okay, either you got to kill this thing or you've got to wait for the timer to go down. And it was a long timer, and I remember like sweating bullets, like trying to get it to go down. So obviously we weren't playing optimally, but I felt what I wanted to feel, and that is like appropriate tension, right? Like I wasn't just like turning my mind off and being like, okay, whatever. It was like, oh, how can we do more damage, or when should I use these things, or should I place this thing here? It was just like that was going the entire time. And I don't think like the Rampage quests are like strategically brilliant necessarily, but I think, you know, like I said, they do have some tension to them, and they're an engaging way to break up, you know, regular hunts.
Most importantly, that's what they do. They give you a little extra variety. That's why I liked when we did arena quests in Rise or World every once in a while, just because it's quick action.
Yeah,
let's get in, start breaking parts. So I just like being able to dance around different modes like that.
Yeah, and that's
great first impression from that.
That's why the Resident Evil quest I think stood out to me so much. Is just because it's like, oh, here's just a unique mechanic that we're just gonna do for this one hunt. And I love stuff like that. Stuff that really just changes it up or tries something new that you can't get anywhere else. And so I hope with the updates they throw in some things like that. Like the cool Tarath like sort of raid in World was also neat. Like other people would be hunting, and you'd have multiple groups trying to take the thing on. That was pretty cool as well.
Dragon's Dogma vibes.
Brandon, I didn't really get to watch much of it at all, just like a tiny snippet, but you and Bloodworth were playing some It Takes Two on stream.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, we played it for about 3 hours, and I don't have a lot of bad things to say about it. We had an absolutely wonderful time. I think the major thing that surprised me is this game is heavy.
Oh, wow.
Holy cow.
So
I don't think I got those vibes from the trailer.
No. And I don't think it's misleading. You know, I think it's what you know is true, which is this is a couple that is dealing with something and kind of a la like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, or you know, Narnia, or, you know, they're kind of thrown into this fantasy situation and introduced to, you know, to a bunch of super wacky characters. Like, so if you've played Brothers and if you've played A Way Out, like this is, I don't know if they're like ideas that the Ferris and team had like cooped up, you know, for so many years, but like our jaw was on the floor constantly. We were constantly like, what? What is it? What? You know, like not only the introduction of things, but then what these weird things did after that, like going from like fighting a vacuum cleaner to like dealing with like militant squirrels.
Cool,
like, it's just, yeah, crazy stuff. But you're constantly learning new mechanics. And there's a lot of really great sharing of items. So like every time they introduced a new thing, like Blood would get one version of it and I would get a totally different version, and he could do things that I couldn't do. I could do things he couldn't do, and we could do a lot of different things together. And all of that had it's one thing. It reminded me of, like, for some reason, I kept thinking of Lego games. And I was like, man, if we were playing a Lego game, we would have been stuck by this point. Like, there would have been some puzzle that we're just like, all right, I know I got this thing. I know I can maybe do something with it, but I can't see. Are those like flowers? What am I supposed to be watering? Or what's this pulley thing? And like, we were just flying through it. We were, you know, maybe it took us a second to like, you know, flip a switch 4 or 5 times and then be like, what are we? Oh, that latch is there. Okay. And, it was really fun. Like, all of the items were very active. So like, you know, he would have like a hammer on his back, or like the metal part of a hammer, you know, without the handle. And I would have nails. So I'd have to like actively throw them at a wall as he was in midair flying toward them. And then he would swing off them. And then I would pull that nail back and then throw it above him so he could then flip off of that. So it's awesome. Like, even if it takes us 7 or 8 times to do it, we're laughing as he keeps falling and dying, and like, okay, hold on, I got this. But the heaviness is just that this is a couple that is having a lot of marital woes, and they don't shy away from that at all. So like, there's kind of a playfulness about like, oh, we've discovered this thing. Remember, I told you to do that, and you never did, spouse. And then it's just like, oh yeah, well, I told you to do this, ha ha ha. And then it'll kind of get serious about like, see, that's the issue with our marriage. Like, those are the things that frustrate me about you, that you don't listen, or you keep focusing on these other things. And so it's like that tension, that kind of inevitability of like, is a relationship going to survive this? I don't know. Like, part of me doesn't like it when you have a film about divorce or a film about marital issues and then like they solve it at the end, because like that's not always the way this stuff works. I kind of like, you know, like spoilers for 20-year-old comedy, but 30 almost. But I love in Mrs. Doubtfire, like they don't get back together. You know, like it's not about that. It's not about Robin Williams and Sally Field, like, you know, finding each other. It's about him growing up and accepting his responsibility. It's about them realizing the different lives that they need to lead, and that being okay, like them still functioning as a family even though they're apart. And so it's weird that it's so cartoonish and like Secret of Nim meets like Roger Rabbit, just really bizarre stuff. But then at the same time can really be grounded in like what's important to them, how much they love their daughter, you know, how much they wanted to, you know, get back to her, and how much they worry about her. And we just easily something I hear it's like somewhere between 15 to 20 hours, like somewhere in that ballpark. And easily something that I could, you know, that stream flew by. Like there was never a point where we got frustrated or did a puzzle that we were just like, okay, that was stupid.
I'm going to sound like a boomer, but when I was playing, the only thing I thought of was how far video games have come in such a short amount of time. This is a freaking video game about divorce. Like, are you kidding me? When I was growing up, dude, playing video games about divorce, and like it's all about like monsters and aliens and, you know, but like it's dealing with such real things while also still being just such a video game. So just love the vibes.
It's interesting. It actually reminds me of Stay Tuned with John Ritter, which is a movie about this. He gets sold a cable company from the devil, and so he gets sucked into a cable box and is basically going through a cable service that has been created to entertain Satan. And so it's just all these it's all these satanic versions of like television shows and movies and stuff. But it's the same kind of vibe where it's like it's a comedy, but you know you still care about these people, and so it's and just the. What that team's done for 3, you know, really impressive games now that I played all of them. I didn't finish A Way Out, but really enjoyed my time with it. Just the stark separation of the two of you, that like you are never together. Like you might be able to see you all at the same time, but there's just a lot of moments where I would, you know, they would give some responsibility to Blood, and I would just be like, good luck, man. You know, I cannot help you at all right now. I'm just watching you do that weird thing that you're doing. And it's delightful. It's a game where you could tell no was never said in the development, you know, meetings. You know, like somebody was like, okay, hear me out. What if there's this hive and there's wasps and one of them's a robot, and there's like, yeah, let's do it. Like,
and really good.
And to think I've only played like, 10, 20% of it, maybe. Yeah. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of other crazy stuff going on. There was of people who had played it before us. Chat kept saying, this next part's great. This next part's great. And they're just like, I know I'm a broken record, but this next part's really fun. You know, a lot of great, because it's like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, where you're, you know, very small, you know, in kind of a grounded kind of a way, like exploring all these environments. There's just lots of really fun Easter eggs and things they've lost that they find again. And it's neat to see the world from that perspective.
Yeah, and like any good platformer too, it feels so good. Just like quick hops, quick jumps. The jump dash is so nice. The air dash feels so good. And just the co-op mechanics, like that vacuum fight, Jones, you were talking about, just how one person needs to do one thing, another person needs to do another thing, but you also need to coordinate when, you know, okay, I'm going on now, or like, you know, you need to move around so the thing drops ahead so this person can do that. So.
And it just all ends in death. So it's just like, wait, no, move the vacuum. I'm going to fall. Okay. All right. Let's try that again. You're like,
really fast, really fast checkpoints.
Dropped off the ledge, fell and splashed. Just like, oops.
Yeah. Never frustrating because you're always right back in it immediately.
If you die, you have to spam. There's like a little heart icon and you have to like, triangle, and spam.
Is it hold or mash? I was confused.
Mash.
Okay.
You gotta mash.
Good to know.
So it's the thing is, if you both get taken out, then you have to like. I think the most brutal rewind we had to do was in one phase of a boss fight that was just like, okay, after like the 5th death, we're like, okay, we got focus here. Let's get this done.
This is
a joy.
This isn't really a game problem. It's more of a me problem. But I always find that when I'm playing with friends, I have such a good time. But like, you know, we get to talking and bantering and stuff, and like kind of. Are sort of playing the game on autopilot while we talk, and so I have those moments where it's like, wait, what's going on in the story? Do you think like kind of the laughs and just social element of the game make it hard to appreciate when it kind of goes in and has those serious moments?
No, because there's not like there's not a ton of them, and a lot of the great like banter that they have between the characters, like the cutscenes are really brief. The book, who, if you remember from the trailers, is like, I'm here to fix your relationship, and like he's like, they react to him in a very realistic way, where like he'll like reappear and be like, hello, and like they'll jump like, oh god, you scared me, and like, will you please leave us alone, we're just trying to get out of here, you know. So like they are kind of confused like you are, like really what, you know, what his motivation is. And a lot of the best lines happen in real time, so like there's a lot of great back and forth dialogue of like for example, I was saying like this vacuum cleaner where like I'm on one end like, okay Ben, I'm gonna jump through, you gotta aim the other end, so you point me at the place I'm trying to go. And then we failed, and then Blood's like, all right, I just have to be quicker, sorry, I got it now. And then when I was going through the second time, he said something as like, okay, don't mess it up this time.
Sure.
You know, so like they knew who did it of the two of us, and that it failed the first time. So there's a lot of fun dialogue in the moment. Mm-hmm. So I could see you, maybe just putting on subtitles and kind of turning your brain off. But it's very clear. And really, it was only, I think in 3 hours, there were only like maybe three, but I had two cutscenes I remember. The first one, and there's one beat between the dad and the daughter in the story where we were both just like, wow, I did not think it was going to be this,
sure,
you know, real, and not like depressing, just impactful, just really just like, oof, you know, tough beat, kid, you know, like this is a rough thing to have to accept and understand and see your place in all of this. And not to mention, she probably doesn't realize, you know, all these crazy magical things are happening. So
there's a lot of nuance in the moment too. Like when one person holds something open, the wife character was just like, yo, you better not shut that on me. You better not do that. And it's like, she said stuff like that like 4 or 5 times, just of like, you better not drop me. She's like so untrusting of the husband.
Sure.
Just picking up on little things like that. I love it.
And you can, and also picking up on moments where you'll finish something and she's like, hey, good job. Yeah. He's like, thanks.
Yeah.
You know, like these little, because it's so, you know, that's like, I think one of my main, you know, a little nervous in the story getting near the end where it's like, well, I guess we didn't have any problems with our marriage after all. It's like, I don't know about that. You know, like, I don't know what marriage can be fixed in like half a day, but you know, so it is, you can kind of predict like slowly, you know, how they'll make you, you know, bring them back together. And, you know, what's from Speed, like, relationships are based on traumatic experience. It's really what's the line.
Yeah, something like that.
So I don't want the story to have too much of that. I hope it still kind of has a very realistic approach.
Stay together for the kids.
Sure.
Sounds wonderful. Is this something, because like the situations that you're describing like sound pretty fun and frantic. Like, you know, I love playing video games with my wife, but she's not, you know, she didn't grow up with video games. She's not as versed in video games. Is it something that like we could appreciate together, or is it?
Ben, literally, this is the first video game I've ever played with my wife.
Okay,
this
and
is
working
finally
well.
The one.
It's working well. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. There's a little aiming and shooting I was nervous about where I'm like, I don't know.
She reads books. She does not play video games, which is probably good because then it would just be nonstop video games in this house. I'm already addicted enough for 10 people. But I was like, yo, Jones and them already streamed it, so I doubt I'll stream it. Brad is probably going to play with Kristen. Like, they recommend you play this game locally. It's about a married couple. Like, if we were ever to play a game, this is the one. This is the one to play. The reviews are out of control. It's like already an early GOTY contender. And I think just because you quick load so fast, and there's a button, the key button of this game, there's a button to push that focuses on your partner.
Gotcha.
Immediately. So anytime she's like freaking out, what's going on? Just like, boom, there you are. Okay. So really easy to get into game for people that maybe not are skilled at video games.
Sure. That's awesome.
and you're moving a lot. That's the other thing about like Lego or some kind of like family oriented puzzle action games is you'll like get into a new zone and then you gotta like solve this puzzle and you're kind of staring at the same environment for like a long time. You are constantly moving. You are going through tunnels and coming out of walls and jumping over things and going under stuff, and it's just like you rarely stay in the same place for more than
we're like taking it really slow, Joan. So if you probably watched like yours versus ours, you guys would be zipping around, and ours is like, okay, jump. Right, we're taking our time, dude.
Kind of, I feel like on the exact opposite end of the gaming spectrum. Huber, you've played some Curse of the Dead Gods.
Curse of the Dead Gods, dude. Focus up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm listening.
This game's great. This game came out right at the same time as Loop Hero, and Loop Hero took all the publicity and the hype, which is an incredible game. No disrespect. Loop Hero, amazing. But this game came out too and just slid under the radar, slid on by, and now I feel like its moment has kind of passed.
I wonder if that's also because like we kind of just got through a huge Hades hype wave. Like that game was so big and
such a great point, Ben. Yeah. It's very similar. It's like a Hades and Darkest Dungeon kind of combined. It's very difficult. But it is a roguelite, and you go through each stage, and at the end of a stage, there's a boss, and when you finish that boss, then you advance to like the next kind of hub world. So there's like 9 or 10 levels. Think of like a pyramid. There's like 3 on the bottom, 3 on the top, or like 3, 3, 3, and 1 or whatever is like the last one. But a traditional run is you go through each room, and there's a lot of mechanics. So it is kind of tricky to explain. There's a lot of mechanics. There's like light and dark. So if you're in the light, that gives you kind of benefits, or if you're in the darkness, that can kind of sap your strength. You have a torch. You can light things on fire to kind of illuminate areas. And if too much darkness consumes you, like if you go through a door, each time you advance to another room, that'll cost darkness. If your darkness meter goes up too much, you get a curse, and you can have 5 curses per run. So these curses can really mess you up. Like the final curse is just like, you're always losing health. Like so brutal. But just the combat is really where this game sings. There is a primary, secondary, and heavy weapon that you have, and a stamina meter. The stamina is so expertly freaking balanced in this game. It deserves to be applauded. Two-handed weapons take 1 full chunk of stamina. Small weapons, you get 3 attacks per chunk. So really knowing when to use what. Two-handed weapons stun enemies also. Parrying can recover health. Dodging costs stamina. So knowing when to dodge, knowing when to parry, knowing when to two-hand stun, or knowing when to just get some quick attacks in there is so cool. You can pair weapons together single-handed, and the gun is really cool. You can like hit them and then shoot them. You can like hold for perfect shots. Just really, really incredible combat where if you're focused up, you can just destroy everything in a second, or it can all come crashing down the second you take your mind off it. So really like that. Yeah,
based on your hype and then just some positive reception I saw of it, I just booted it up just to give it a quick spin, and it was really interesting.
You were playing? You played some?
I've played just a tiny bit.
Yes,
and I really liked it. It's like one of those games that I could easily see myself sinking into because you were talking about the combat and mastering it, and I love that in games.
Yeah.
And some of the, I believe it was curses that I got were just really creative as well. Like it wasn't always like, oh yeah, I've seen this before. It was like, okay, if you open chests, you have to successfully parry. And it's like, that is brutal and hilarious. And like
spikes pop out.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, well, that will also like maybe get me better at the parry timing, because I was definitely struggling with it, like trying to just master it with the enemies and things like that.
Because Yeah, the enemies will throw off your parry timing, Ben. It's so brutal and annoying, but I love it. Like, some enemies will, like, delay for a second and you just parry too quick, but then some will just, like, fake you out and get in there. The ones where they'll shoot their orbs is really annoying because some will come right at you, but then others will, like, slowly float at you. And I'm just like, parry, and I get, like, stun locked.
Yep.
Yeah, the only real criticism I have is, like, I finally got to near the end, Ben, the last couple ones, and the final ones are just extended runs. So the early one will be like, okay, you go through like 5 or 6 rooms and then a boss. Towards the end, it's like, yo, you go through like 15 rooms, 3 bosses. It got to a point where it's like 45-minute runs and I die.
Right.
Punishing, man. And you know, famously in Darkest Dungeon, we always talk about, which is a 10 out of 10 game. But Darkest Dungeon, I got to the Darkest Dungeon, lost my entire party, and hard quit the game. I was like, all right, you win.
Yeah.
Right.
Same thing with this game. I uninstalled it at a point. I actually just reinstalled it because I was like, dude, let me give it another shot. This is a game you have to be okay with. Like, yo, I got my money's worth. You win.
Sure.
I feel like if you're okay with that, you'll get the maximum value out of this thing because those final ones are really brutal, really, really brutal. Where it's like, damn, I just spent 45 minutes getting to the end of this, and like, really, yeah, you retain some skulls, which is kind of the roguelite permanent upgrades. But even those upgrades will just be like, yo, you can start with like a little better weapon. You know, so those returns really start to diminish once you get really further in the game. So the time investment to mastering it and to getting through it at the very, very end goes up like a rocket ship.
And kind of going back to the like Hades comparison, I think something that softened the blow there, because I remember the first time I got to Hades and then I died and I went all the way back and it's like, but you know, the story was so well presented that you were like, you know, getting some kind of cool interactions. Like you had that nice, like, take a breath moment.
Yeah.
And with Hades that I think made it kind of easy to just keep banging your head against.
And the rewards in Hades, even if you died, you're still getting some benefits.
Yeah.
The benefits really start to kind of just evaporate.
Sure.
Again, you can level up your chances of taking better weapons in. But after that, it's not much. You're not really getting like better stats, more health. It's just like, yo, your weapon's a little better, which helps.
How do you feel about the different weapons?
I really like the variety. The spears are so cool because it's all about spacing. If you get them with the tip, it's like a critical strike. The hammer is so good because it's a sweeping strike, so it's good for groups. The claws are really good because it's like quick. The bow, Jones, is so fun because you have to time it. It's like this, it'll charge it. It'll be like right there, boom, shoot. And it's like critical strike. And also shout out to the events. Every day there's a new event that puts like really creative modifiers on it. And it gives you a lot of extra rewards. It was like out of nowhere. Really, really fun. I was like logging in every day just to do an event. One of them was like the bow, themed around the bow, where you could only use the bow, but it was like insane damage.
Oh,
but
nice.
every time you used it though, it would corrupt you a little bit. So you had to like really pick your shots, get like big, strong shots in.
That's a really good addition, yeah.
Yeah, super fun.
I remember in Hades kind of having an aha moment with the shield where I was like, yep, my first clear is going to be with the shield. Like, it's just clicking with me.
If you have a shield in this, Ben, your parry window increases.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Did you have that moment with any of the weapons where there was one that you kind of just immediately gravitated toward?
I love the spear. I really love the spear. There's
Spear
a
is
build.
also very good in Hades.
There's one where, like, after you do your finisher, because it's like circle, like finisher. After you do your finisher, you get a point of stamina back. So I could start like really using a lot of those hits. So I really like the spear. Also, the sword and the gun combo, the 6-shooter, is really fun because you can do this move where you like knock them back with the gun. It's cool.
Yeah, getting the perfect shot with the gun was pretty satisfying. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just like the weapons. Again, it's a punishing game, especially once you get to the final area. So if you know that going in, if you're okay with maybe just hitting a brick wall of difficulty and being like, okay, like if you know that going in, I think you'll really enjoy this game. Because like you were saying, Ben, it's just so fun to really master this combat. You can feel so good going into a room and just like rolling, parry, kill, dodge, like just doing everything flawlessly in a room is so rewarding.
It's funny because as much as I gravitate toward those games, and I really think they are my favorite kind of games, like any sort of combat mastery and strategy and all that stuff, I just adore that stuff. But at the same time, sometimes I feel like it takes me a bit to dive into them because it's funny because we'll be talking about the Doom Eternal DLC, and that took me forever to get through because it's like, okay, I need to be like not exhausted and I need an entire day. Like, I need to just be able to like sit there and grind it out and learn and really focus. Yeah. And sometimes it can be hard finding that space.
Totally.
For sure.
This game started out, like you were saying, Jones, with hunts. The early stages of Curse of the Dead Gods is very like, okay, quick run. Oh, that was fun. Oh, sure, one more. Then by, 10, 15, 20 hours in, it's Doom Eternal. It's like, yo, let me sit down for 2 or 3 hours and like focus up.
Rip and tear until it's done.
Yeah.
So we're at the part of the show where one of us will do a PSA. We'll warn our audience about something. You can use this to rant. You can use this to caution. You can use this to share a bad experience that you've had recently. But we're going to play a little game. Balan Wonderworld just came out. And on Steam, there's more like... There's a greater degree of variation than what I'm saying, but there are Steam reviews. Mm-hmm. And I want to know if the Steam reviews right now for Balan Wonderworld are positive, mixed, or negative.
I'm going to say overwhelmingly negative.
I'll say mixed.
Okay, if neither one of you got it, I would take it. But Brandon, you got it. They're mixed right now.
Mixed. Nice.
Yeah, let me read a positive review.
Great.
Okay. TLDR shines in later levels, but still has flaws to be priced at what is that, pounds? 50 pounds. Variety of costumes, secret levels, level themes, music, all positive. Negatives, models are lackluster, costume switching, animations could be better, and Balan bouts. I don't know what that is, but that's a negative as well. See,
mixed.
The first negative review I see is this game is unfortunately probably like a 5 out of 10. All right.
That seems right. I like that review.
Yeah. Brandon, why don't you give us today's PSA?
Sure. This episode of Frame Trap is brought to you by Going Outside. We are all potentially. You could be vaccinated right now, or you could have that scheduled. You could be in between shots. There's a chance that sometime soon in 2021, your life is going to change and is going to open up, and you are going to want to get out and do other things. And we just recently, I did not go, but my wife brought my little one, my almost 2-year-old son, to the park. And he's like been to the beach, he's been out, but like has not socialized probably as much as he would have in this last year had we not been in a global pandemic. And so just like seeing pictures of him just like sitting on the grass, just with nothing behind him but trees and stuff, and just looking out at the sun, is like, man, that feels so good. And it's the sun's a little warmer today than it's been recently, and just getting out and spending some time outside, whether you actually like walk or run or get a little bit of exercise in there as well. I think that's something that sadly, if you are like me, if you are like us, if you are interested in games and entertainment, it's very easy to just order in all the time and not go outside. But I think it's good, good for your skin, but also just kind of good for your mental health, just to exert yourself in some way and just get out there and breathe as fresh of an air as you can possibly find, and potentially explore some places around you that you might not know. It's always fun to just like boot up Google Maps and, oh, look at that, there's green spots. There might be some areas around you that are not too far that you can enjoy a little bit of the outdoors, get a little taste of it, hear some birds, feed a squirrel or two. I think it has benefits that outweigh the energy that it takes to go do it.
Yeah, Brandon, that's a very good message because, understandably so, during the last year, I have not really gone outside much at all. And not that I did before the pandemic a ton anyway, but definitely even less now. And the few times that I have gotten outside and really spent time out there, it does so much for you mentally and emotionally. Like we are meant to spend significant time outside, and I don't do it enough. So yeah, very good message, one I can easily relate to. This part of the show is brought to you by some wonderful, in addition to being brought to you by nature, it is also brought to you by some wonderful shout out tier patrons. If you would like to find more out about this tier, we have a lot of podcasts where we will shout you out. Go to patreon.com/easyallies, which is kind of the bedrock of Easy Allies. Like it's kind of our like big thing that we rely on. And so if you enjoy this program or other things that we do, consider contributing, even just a little bit, it goes a long way. So for this, after I say the names, I thought, because this is a Monster Hunter themed episode, try to say shout out like you would if you were in the Monster Hunter world. You don't necessarily have to be a hunter, I don't think, but try to put yourself in that world, however you interpret that. So, shout out to Elthanas, Greg TheDarkKnight Kettering, Caleb Togi Crawford, Nick, Stephen Thomason, and Edsgar Senpai Black Clover. Shout out!
Shout out!
Shout out!
Cool.
Why are we not hunting now?
It's disrespectful. It's disrespectful.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, like, I know I could just bring in my impressions of the game, and there's a lot to do single player, but Ben, I almost messaged you today and was just like, do you want to just
hunt? Brandon,
before
that is my fetish. Please do that at any point.
I literally almost did the same thing, guys. I swear to God. Right before we filming this, I was like, should I message for one?
And shout out, because I've been just playing a lot of games on Xbox, and I've just not touched my Switch a lot outside of Animal Crossing. And so, like, Amanda was preparing dinner, and I was just like going to have a beer and chill, and we were going to watch a movie. And I was like, wait a minute. I went and like got my Switch, and that was the only time I had played it handheld, and it passes the handheld test with flying colors. I was just sitting in the kitchen.
That's a big test.
Yeah, feels good.
Yeah, it's good handheld. I think I just get so picky about the controls. Like there's just something about those little switch nubs that doesn't quite do it for me in the same way, but totally fine way to play the game.
It's a tiny R1 button.
Yes, there's a lot of R1 for sprinting.
In that game.
Yeah, especially on the Switch Lite. I feel like those bumpers are not great, but it's fine. Brandon, you're a big Immortals Fenyx Rising fan, and you've been playing the new DLC, Myths of the Eastern Realm.
Yes. So I previously talked to, previously on Brandon on Frame Trap, I talked about a new god, which is the first DLC. This is so crazy different. Hubert loves his Ubisoft DLCs.
Yeah, this caught my eye, Johns, because I finished the base game.
It's pretty crazy because I don't know if I've experienced DLC like this before. It's such a fascinating thing that they've done. So a new god, the first DLC. If you are played Fenyx Rising, you're looking to get back in, and you're weighing these things. That is a continuation of the first game, and it is mostly puzzle. It's mostly trial oriented. You get new abilities, but you can't take them back into the old world. It is funny. It does. If you are like really in love with these characters, if you're really focused on your Fenyx, it's fun to to continue the story and to see kind of what the next chapter of that is. This is a totally new thing, totally new map, totally new cast. and it's wild. So it's Ubisoft Chengdu, which has been around since 2008. Right now they're working with Ubisoft Singapore on the Skull and Bones. They've worked on Origins and Odyssey and Syndicate and Black Flag, For Honor, a bunch of other stuff. And from what I can tell, basically what happened was the team that worked on Fenyx Rising just kind of handed them like the game. They were just like, here's how Immortals is going to work. Take this and make it Chinese mythology. And so Chengdu was just like, okay. And so some things are exactly the same. So like you start out with some abilities that it takes you a little while to get in Immortals. So you have your double jump right away. You have your some other specific stuff that's you use via puzzle solving. And then there's like this big like hammer slash that you can do that's identical to the abilities that Ku gets. And you have like your blade lift that you like throw all the enemies up in the air. All that's the same. Everything's totally reskinned, so like all of the enemies are different. You can tell what enemy they were based on. It's like, oh, okay, the Gorgons are now these weird little lion dudes, and then the Cyclopses are these guys. They even have like the same attacks and the same like grunts and stuff. But the story is totally different. Whole new script, a much smaller cast, but still kind of has the same trappings where like the protagonist and I'm not sure how they work gender-wise. So like I had a male lead, and I don't know if they just if you had a male Fenyx, they give you a male lead for this game, or if there's a point where you can decide. I just kind of rolled into it, and they were like, here's your guy. I'm like, okay. But both Fenyx and Ku have a knowledge of their mythologies. And so whether that's Greek mythology or Chinese mythology in this, they recognize it. And so when they see things, oh, I know what that is, and I know who this god is. And so it's nice to get exposition that way. And from what I can tell, and granted, there might be somebody coming along that knows a lot about Chinese mythology and be like, this is insulting. It's like, I don't know that much about, how these worlds work, but, there is an honesty, there is a truthfulness to how it was representing mythology, but it does not take itself seriously at all. Like to the point where, just their dialogue, like you capture you help these two dragon spirits out, like to go back and get reunited with their bodies, and like the way that you're talking to them is not what you would see in like an old classic Jet Li film or something. Like this is a very modern conversations, very modern speaking, but in a fun, playful way. Specifically, Ku is just like so endearing, almost kind of more than Fenyx was. Like Fenyx was kind of like a bit roguish, a bit silly. And the Ku is just so earnest and so like, I really want to do the right thing. And it's, as much as I love New Game Plus, it is, there is that part of me that enjoyed Immortals so much that like, it's kind of fun just going back to the drawing board and just like, I'm starting out again. And the map is much smaller. You level up way faster. So like, they know, I think I wouldn't recommend this for somebody that just finished Immortals, because I'd be like, it's kind of the same thing. Like you're kind of just going back in and you have less powers. But given how long it's been since Immortals came out, if you skip New God because you heard it was just kind of puzzle focused and you're like, I'm done with the story, I'm not interested. But it's kind of gnawing at you that you're like, yeah, that was fun. I did enjoy that. I think it's been enough time. It was for me to go back to this and be like, I'm good at exploring these worlds. I'm good at recognizing what's important and what skills I need, and how enemies react. And it was really fun going into it. And again, just I've never seen the systems in place for an open world game, and then just literally a whole nother team coming along and just repainting and rewriting everything. I've never seen that done before with an open world or like an action game. So it's really interesting in that regard. I haven't finished it, but I'm very much enjoying it. It's nice.
You were mentioning kind of the lighthearted nature of it, and I remember that was like something for Brad. That was his big criticism, is that the humor just didn't work. Like it just felt really flat for him. Is the humor here very similar? Is it better? Like what's your take on it?
I think I can't remember who it was. I think it was when Damiani, when he reviewed it, he compared Prometheus and Zeus to Statler and Waldorf from the Muppets. And like it definitely has that kind of vibe where like they're constantly joking about everything. So it's like it's kind of it almost kind of like a Don Rickle like rim shot just every 5 minutes, just like, what about this joke? And you're like, okay. Like, oof, that joke was bad. Whereas this isn't that relentless. Like, this is much more focused on Ku, really. Like, it's like, it was actually interesting starting out, because when you begin Immortals, you start with Zeus and Prometheus before you even meet Fenyx. And so you're introduced to these two characters that are going to be kind of a yin and yang, like, you know, narrating the whole thing. One that knows the story, the other one that's kind of like trying to, like, all right, pick up the pace of this, you know, of the storytelling. And in this, you really just start with your character. And so no one's talking to you. So it was weird first going through the world and, like, just no one's talking. There's just silence. I'm like, oh, this is kind of a different vibe. And so it's just not as narratively heavy as Immortals was. I personally liked that humor, because even, like, it was obvious to me, even some of the bad jokes, I was like, ooh, I think they know that joke was bad, and they didn't. It's one thing if you're watching like a sitcom and there's a laugh track and you're just like, man, this is not as funny as I think the game thinks it, or TV show or movie thinks it is. So yeah, that is, and even when you do meet those characters that can kind of, in your brain or through magical means, communicate you no matter where you are on the map, it's not as, it's just a little more subdued. And that's not, again, I think that also has to do with not like Greek and Chinese culture, but like if you see Chinese cinema, if you see Japanese cinema, there is kind of a reserved, like, a focus, you know, I'm trying to think of like the right word, like a seriousness,
like a discipline,
you know, that, yes, that's a great example. You know, that is a little more, so even when the characters are being silly or when they're playing off mistakes that they've made, and that's one of the things that I enjoyed about the humor in Immortals so much, is like, if you know, Greek mythology is nuts. If you actually go into like what these characters do to each other, and like the things that parents do to children and lovers do to each other, I mean, it's just like mistake after mistake, because they're all parables. Like, you're supposed to read about these gods and be like, that's what you don't do, you know, like, you don't fly too close to the sun. You don't, stab your friends in the back. And so it's fun hearing these characters in Immortals be like, yeah, you know, Zeus more than anybody, like, yeah, I did that thing and I screwed that person over. I burned that village to the ground. What? You know, so like, it's a little cheekier and or a little more subdued in this, when Ku will be talking to a god and be like, but wait a minute, like, this statue, how did that turtle become frozen? And she's like, I don't know. You know, like, and if you know Chinese mythology, you're like, wait a minute, that's your fault. You did that. So it is playful, but yeah, I could see you kind of turning the volume down a little bit if you're just like, this humor is not working for me. But I think, just like everything else in the game, it's just everything that I enjoyed about Immortals in a very small amount of time. So just the leveling and the script and progression, and, you know, if you had played Immortals, you're familiar with, there's like 4 main quadrants of the map and then a 5th mountain area. And in this, there's just 2. So it's just a very quick slice of the same type of progression system in the first game.
You've really stuck with Immortals. I mean, playing the main game and then the first DLC and now the second DLC. Do you think this is something that has legs in the future? I mean, if they tackled just, you know, different mythologies, and that was kind of their thing, sort of like Assassin's Creed, do you think that you'd be interested in that? Do you think it would serve the series well?
Sure. Fenyx is a character. I don't know how much more they have to go into. It seems like you kind of wrapped up everything that, you know, that they could do. But for all of the gods in the Greek pantheon, they don't, like, you don't meet a lot of them. Like, they reference a lot of other characters. Specifically, there are a couple quests actually where they try to communicate with some and they're gone. And so I could see them even just sticking to Greek mythology and like going to another environment. And yeah, especially after finishing Valhalla, it was just like, Valhalla was so heavy, and I had just so many like character relationships weighing me down that whole time, where I'm just like, God, I really want this to go right. There's all these prophecies that are just saying that everything is going to go terribly, and I really don't want that to happen. Whereas it was so refreshing to go into Immortals and just being like, oh, whatever. I'm going to run around and grab a unicorn. And, you know, there's like, it's been interesting. Talking about playing with spouses, Amanda's obsessed.
Oh, wow.
And it's been neat, seeing what is important to her, seeing like what she's doing first and what I did, you know, first, and, you know, what she considers an achievement, you know, like what she'll come and rush to me and be like, look what I got. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that was in the game. Cool. You know, I just didn't dig that hard into that one area of the game. I just kind of moved on. and it's just a very quick, accessible, no stress open world game. And as somebody who just rarely gets like stressed as far as like tuning out of an open world game, I can get kind of obsessive, and it can be kind of daunting to look at something and be like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on. Whereas it's just a very inviting world to experience. And that's cool, Huber, that you played through the whole thing. I didn't know that you wrapped it up.
Yeah, some tricky puzzles. There's like one or two I looked up, Jones. There was a lot of lasers, and I was like, yo, YouTube, save me here. Save me, please.
I bailed on the vaults by the end of it. I was like, Yeah. It's funny, like it's always fun to meet like new Jones versus old Jones with games, because like new Jones is like, I'm doing all of this, and then like by the end I get to the end of the game, it's like, what a fool I was. It's time to move on.
Man, it's so funny because my wife and I are playing Rise of the Tomb Raider together, and normally she gets a little bit annoyed when I go full like I'm clearing the map mode. And I'm like, I'm doing all the side quests and stuff, but we're doing that in Rise of the Tomb Raider, and there's a lot
side stuff.
Yeah, it is really good side stuff, and we've been really enjoying it, but there's a lot of it, and she's so into it, and I'm curious like why that is. If it's just because of like the variety in the activities, or like solving the puzzles, or I'm not sure what it is.
Tomb Raiders, I feel like Tomb Raider specifically, the side stuff has such an identity. Like the optional temples are like such a thing.
Yeah.
Whereas in Immortals, I think a fair criticism would be like a lot of these look identical.
Gotcha.
Oh
like, it all looks the same.
Especially the vaults.
Yeah.
Like they're all. Yeah.
Well,
it's all the same.
Obviously you have things like the challenge tombs, but even just getting access to certain things, like there was a strong box, and it's like, oh, how do we get there? And you're like, you have to kind of scan around the environment to figure out where you're going to get through. So that stuff is definitely fun.
That is fun.
One line, Ben, that just sums up like Ku's attitude that I really enjoyed is he is first scanning the environment, like the first chance you get to do that, to look around. And it's just like Breath of the Wild, where you can mark stuff that you're like, oh, that in the horizon, I got to do that thing. And he sees the skeleton of a dragon, and he's like, oh, he's like, what? He's like, that's a huge dragon. He's like, who would kill a dragon? Dragons are awesome. And it's just that kind of, just that earnestness that like, is really carrying me through. I love his characterization. But I'm very curious to talk to someone of Chinese descent and be like, how is this? Like, I'm loving it. I'm loving just kind of diving into it. And I had one really interesting thing compared to Fenyx Rising was I was very particular about my armor. So like I found a couple things I liked really early on, and then when I would unlock cool other designs later on, I'm like, I'm good. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, that armor's cool, but I'm kind of content with this. Whereas like I don't really have there's something about Chinese mythology that I'm like, there isn't a Chinese warrior I want to look like. And so like every time I get a new hat, I'm like, sure, just like, whoa, like I look crazy now. Like, and so it's neat to really just kind of, yes, there is a copy paste vibe to it when you get in, especially if you finish all of Immortals, that you're like, oh, they clearly just removed all of these assets and put all of these in. But it being a whole different team is fascinating to me. And it's just nice to, like, yes, you're like, oh, they're not blueberries, they're whatever, lychee, or something. It's like, okay, I see what you did there. But it's always fun to, I think, and games really let us do that, where there's like an RTS or something, with like the Total War series, where you're like, oh, cool, here's like a culture that I don't know a lot about, that I know these systems already, so I can just kind of jump in and learn, more about this time period and this mythology as I go through it. And jump and slash. It's very important.
I have also been playing some DLC. I finished Doom Eternal's Ancient Gods Parts 1 and 2. And boy, after finish like taking Doom Eternal, like the base, and then the 2 DLCs, I think taking all of that together, I mean it. This is one of my favorite shooters of all time. Like, it's just like I right now want to replay it because of how good it feels. It's just incredible. And the DLC is interesting because it's so narratively consequential. I mean, it is an essential part of this story. And so if you're invested in the story at all, you care at all, which may not be that many people when it comes to Doom, admittedly.
Love the story.
But it
love it.
It has some it ties everything together and has some pretty gigantic revelations. Wow. going on. And so, yeah, it's worth it kind of like from that aspect alone. And when I first talked about the Ancient Gods Part 1 on Frame Trap, I'd only played through the first level. And the thing that I said was like, oh, yeah, it's kind of more of the same. And that's true, I think, in a broad sense. But now having gone through both DLCs, I think what I really admire is their willingness to mechanically mix things up. And I've seen people annoyed by some of these mechanics, but I think it's actually kind of like a cool, natural extension of things that you were already doing in Doom Eternal. And so, like, there are shielded guys where, like, normally in Doom Eternal, the shields you can just destroy with your plasma gun, and these guys, their shields are completely invulnerable. And so you have to find a way to get behind them. Or what you can do is you can use your rocket launcher and then use the attachment that allows you to manually detonate a rocket. So you shoot it past them and then blow it up. And that's just really satisfying to do. Or there are these...
or Death from Above. Can you just stomp them and like super shotgun to their head?
As long as you're not hitting their shield, you're hitting them, you can kill them. Like, grenades are really good at it too. And there are these like stone imps where they're pretty much invulnerable to everything but your full auto attachment to the shotgun. And so, like, these enemies are very heavily restricted, but I think what makes Doom Eternal, the DLC, work is it's not like every single fight you're like dealing with a ton of these guys. Like, I think for the most part, they generally use them pretty intelligently, and they just kind of spice things up, I think, without going too far over the edge. Like, there's one really annoying imp. It's a cursed imp, and if it damages you, you just cannot dash at all. And that's a death sentence. That's a death sentence. Like, you just...
Yeah, that's brutal.
You need that dash so much. And so you have to, like, kill him with a blood punch once you get cursed. And it's a lot to deal with, but I think it already adds to kind of the puzzle piece nature of the Ancient Gods, or not the Ancient Gods, the Doom Eternal, where it's about getting into a battle and recognizing threats, right? And then coming up with strategies on the fly to kind of dismantle things and remove the highest threats first and kind of go from there, and using your enemies to get resources and that sort of thing. So all that stuff is really, really satisfying. Something that, like, doesn't change traversal really all that much, or at least it didn't for me, but is just super fun, is now there are these, like, points that are in the air that you use for platforming, Huber, and you use the hook of the super shotgun.
Excellent.
like a grappling hook, like you're swinging. And so you go and you latch onto it and you, like, whip yourself around them. And that is super, super fun. Just
so fun to move in that game.
Yeah, it is. It's a blast to move around. I will say Ancient Gods Part 2, like, kind of felt short. Like, you did, it was just kind of like over more quickly than I was expecting, and it feels easier than Part 1. Part 1 had some gnarly moments. Like, it was rough. But Part 2 didn't have that quite as much. And I wonder if part of the reason for that is you get a new weapon in Part 2, the Sentinel Hammer.
Awesome.
And what it is when you use it, you'll kind of stun everything in an AoE. And it also kind of fits back into the Doom Eternal puzzle, where if you flame belch them before using the hammer, you'll get a bunch of armor. Or if you freeze grenade them before using the hammer, you'll get a bunch of health. But it's really easy to get back, because all you have to do is glory kill 2 enemies, which you're glory killing stuff all the time in that game. And so, like, you constantly have hammer charges, and there's also hammer pickups that you have throughout the arenas. And so, like, you have the hammer all the time. And, you know, like, the BFG, when you use it, like, it can clear an entire room, but it's hard finding ammo for it. It's hard to come by. And so the hammer is pretty powerful in a way that I think it kind of maybe doesn't break the puzzle of Doom Eternal that is so satisfying, but I think it simplifies it a little.
Did you feel, though, that you were ready for the combat to be simplified? You're at the end of the road of Doom Eternal. You've come so far. You're at part 2 of the DLC. Did it give you the feeling of like, yo, you've earned this. Here is this weapon that is so powerful. Go rip and tear. Like, you're a new level of strength.
The way you get it is pretty cool. Yeah, yes and no, because I think why Doom Eternal is one of my favorite shooters is like you have to get good. Like playing on Ultra Violence, which I did for.
You can't fake it.
You can't.
You cannot fake it.
You can't. And like in certain situations, you can do things that are really powerful, but like you have to get good at the game. Like, and you feel it, right? Like it's such a fast-paced game that when you start playing, like when I started playing Ancient Gods a long time ago versus where I'm at now, like I'm 10 times as good now than I was when I started. And I love that feeling of progression. And I think what makes you feel so badass is that moment when you get through a fight and you're like, yeah, like I earned that. You know what I mean? Like the game didn't give me it. Like I really had to be quick on my feet. I really had to be, just all of that stuff. And I think with the hammer, it doesn't break it. It's not like the hammer and suddenly it's like a cakewalk. I definitely didn't feel like it was a cakewalk, but it was just one of those things where it's like, yeah, like you could have gotten through that fight without the hammer, and I bet it would have been like maybe just a little bit more satisfying. I don't know. But at the same time, like you're kind of right. It is the end, right? Mm-hmm. And it is like character-wise, you're this Doomslayer, right? Who's already done so much in the world, and like you're going after the ultimate evil, and so it makes sense to kind of have a powerful weapon to take that thing down.
Ben, the expectations are high for me in only one area because I felt like it was lacking in the original Doom Eternal, and just because of the title of this DLC. How are the bosses? Forgettable bosses in the original main game for me. They were fine, they were good, but nothing nothing unforgettable where I'm just like, oh my god, I always think about that boss. It was just business as usual for me. Are the Ancient Gods bosses cool?
I wonder if that's because like Slayer gates felt more like bosses than like the actual bosses, Honestly,
yeah.
I do really like the Icon of Sin in Doom Eternal, but I think it's just kind of the spectacle of it more than anything else. Yeah, there's a final boss in both part 1 and part 2, and I won't spoil who they are, but the boss in the Ancient Gods part 1 was extremely satisfying to me because it felt like truly the ultimate challenge. So in part 1, they introduce possessed enemies, and possessed enemies are a nightmare. So possessed enemies, they have like this ghost inside of them, and like your tricks that you rely on, like they just don't work, and they're way, way, way faster, and they will fuck you up immediately. Like they are just monstrous threats. So like you just can't freeze grenades them. They just make it so this essential tool that you have that could really like ease a lot of headaches in your life, it just doesn't work. But not only that, when you kill a possessed enemy, the ghost pops out, and the only way you can kill the ghost is you have to use the microwave beam on them. It's actually, it just feels like they're doing a Ghostbusters reference.
Yeah, Ghostbusters.
Yeah. But you have to, it takes a while, so you have to wait for the bar to fill up to kill the ghost. And so like you're trying to desperately kill this ghost all while other enemies are still around you, right? And if you don't kill the ghost, it will just possess another enemy, and you have to do the whole thing over again. And so in the final boss fight, the boss that you need to kill is invulnerable, and 2 possessed enemies are running around with and there will be other enemies that are respawning, okay? And so you have to kill both of the possessed enemies and their ghost to make the boss vulnerable, all while being in this arena where there's like portals and there's like laser beams going by that you have to dodge, otherwise you take damage. And it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. But it really, like, sounds getting so through intense. It. It's funny because, like, I was playing this boss fight late at night, and my wife was asleep, and I was dying at the very final phase quite a bit, and I was like, you know, I was getting a little salty, and I was like, damn it, and I like pounded the table, and my wife came out, and she's like, is everything okay? And it's like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's just,
a Doom boss.
It's just a Doom boss.
Is everything okay? It's one of those games.
And so that
funny.
ultimate challenge, I think was really, really good. I like the idea of the final boss in part 2. It's kind of meant to be this like mano-a-mano duel where you're not dealing with like some beast or creature, right? You're dealing with somebody that's like a warrior like you are. And if they hit you, they can heal themselves. They can summon other things. And there's only like one attack that you can counter him and do damage. And it's fine. It just felt pretty solvable. It's like, I just hit him when he goes. Like, I think the problem with it kind of just felt like a big marauder. Like, Marauders already kind of give you that dual feeling. And this just felt like a more complex version of that, but it didn't feel quite as grand, I guess, or unique as the boss to part 1 did for me.
Got it.
But I'm curious to see what you think if you get a chance to go through it. But
yeah, I bought the season pass when it came out. For PS4, that's you know, I knew my PC wouldn't be able to handle this, so I'm just waiting on that upgrade. Which a week ago they did say that now that Ancient Gods is out, that's their focus.
Yeah,
is just getting those next gen patches out. So it's pretty much just waiting for that, and then I was gonna burn through both.
Yeah, man. Like, I feel like I could play this game forever. It's so much fun. It's so satisfying. Like, the look of it is just awesome. It like, I don't know. I think it's going to make me hold shooters in a different standard. I think. Like, I just want more of this. And like,
between that and Wolfenstein, Ben, I mean, it's just the best of it all. Just like the pacing of each is different enough.
Yeah.
So where, to me, those are both just the gold standard.
Yeah, and I think Machine Games has done a great job with Wolfenstein, and I really like New Order and New Colossus, but what's interesting about Wolfenstein is I feel like they kind of take this old school mentality and modernize it, and they make it feel really good. But I think what's so impressive about Doom Eternal to me is there's truly nothing else that feels like it. And what I mean by that is just like this sort of like puzzle system that it has, where like you have to kind of learn the value of all of your weapons, all of your tools, all of your attachments, you know, and the way you have to dismantle enemies and how different enemy compositions can change the rhythm of the fight. Like, it's so much more than just, you know, aiming and shooting. It's, you know, like I said, threat priority and movement and understanding the arena that you're in. Like, that final boss fight that I was talking about in Ancient Gods Part 1, things started to go better once I'm like, okay, this is the safe way to get through this arena. Like, this is the good loop that I can do that will give you the most advantage. And I think that tactical side of it is so strong. And so I want more of that. Like, I really think id is doing tremendous justice to, you know, one of the most beloved and important video game franchises that are out there. And I cannot wait to see what they do next. Like, this
Doom Trinity.
I don't know. But at the same time, it's hard because I think, like, Doom Eternal can feel like so hardcore that it like how broad is the appeal, I guess. I don't know.
Levels are so damn long that even for me, sometimes in the darkest moments, it can feel like work. It really can, because the levels go on so damn long. So, like, do you just do that again, Ben? Like, when you make another Doom, do you make it even more puzzly, or do you go Doom 3 style and kind of reinvent, maybe invest in a little more horror, slow the pace down, but then you're stripping away the identity of what makes Doom 2016 Doom Eternal so great? So if you're the creative director, where do you take this franchise? Because, like, I feel like the puzzle element has been cranked to the max.
Right, yeah. I like, especially thinking about all the additional mechanics that the DLC added. It's like, I don't know how much farther you could take this. I think we're kind of at the limit for, like, mechanics and things to pay attention to. Like, now you see it in the crosshair, like what you have off of cooldown. It's like, there's a lot. And so, yeah, I agree. I don't think you can necessarily go more in that direction, but I do think maybe you could take kind of the seed of what is present in Eternal, and, you know, I'm just throwing ideas out here. I'm not saying they're necessarily good ideas, but like, it'd be interesting to see this style, like, maybe as a roguelike. And so kind of what you're talking about, you know, with the levels feeling long, it's like, what if it was just a quick run? Or, you know, what if you could add modifiers and get different things out of that? So maybe...
That's pretty crazy. That'd be a fun mode.
Yeah, just something like that, right? Or, I don't know, maybe... I don't know where it goes from here, but...
The future is bright.
The future is bright. And I know not... Eternal is actually very divisive, and a lot of people think 2016 is better. I really like Eternal. I very much enjoy the DLC, and so... Like, for me, they're just knocking it out of the park. Like, I've had a total blast.
It's hard to separate them in my mind for some reason. You know, 2 games I've finished, and it's, you know, I always say, like, oh, the MCU is one big movie. Yeah. But, like, weirdly, like, Doom and Doom Eternal for me just blend. Like, it is.
They feel very different.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I just need to go. Maybe I just haven't played 2016 in so long.
Sure. Yeah.
If I went back, it would feel different.
Yeah. Definitely. But talking about Doom, near and dear to my heart. Love me some Doom. For this HOTTAKE, we're also going to talk about something kind of near and dear to my heart. I thought to kind of celebrate the release of Monster Hunter World. We're going back to Monster Hunter, and I was like, let's just do a lighthearted HOTTAKE. Let's just have fun with it.
Jolly.
And like, Monster Hunter World was such an incredible success, and I feel like Rise is being received really well. You guys seem to be enjoying it. I am enjoying it. But what's next? You know, like, what, to you personally, where would you like to see this series go? You know, it's done so much already. It has such a long history, but it also has a bright future ahead of it. So what do you think that would and should look like? It's a tough question.
Yeah. From my perspective, if it ain't broke,
right?
You know, I just one thing. I what made me happy when I read your review, Ben, is that it seemed like, because we were just like talking about the story, and it seemed like what, you know, some of the biggest improvements that they made were like all gameplay focused. Right. It was like all giving you new tools that is not taking away from stuff or not making anything necessarily easier than it was before. It's just making it more fun, more engaging, getting you more attached to the environment, giving you more options in combat. And so that seems like, you know, such a success in this. And I was worried because I will say one negative, that after reading your review when I got in the game, I was like, I don't know, but like, this game looks a little rough, you know, just for me looking at World from afar going into this is like, you know, and it's not like taking away, it's just like this you know, does not look at World is just such a crazy gorgeous game.
So
and this definitely reminds me of some old Monster Hunter worlds, you know, that I had, or Monster Hunter environments that I had checked out before. So it's, long story short, it's great that the gameplay improvements that they've made, you know, not overshadow, but like, you know, are the important thing, and they will take you through regardless of this, you know, if you're not a fan of the style, or if you wanted to the resolution to be a little sharper if compared to what you're used to.
I feel like I didn't communicate that part of the review as well as I could have, because it's like, I think it looks and runs great for what it's doing on the Switch.
For a Switch
game.
Disclaimer.
Runs, I think the runs part of that is key.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if this game didn't look that hot and you were having frame rate issues or having connection issues or anything, but having all of that not be there. And actually, I saw that a lot in chat when we were streaming it. A lot of people were like, I can't believe this is running this well, you know, on Switch. So yeah, they clearly set the bar right where they needed to in terms of performance.
It's certainly not.
I just haven't played enough
like World. Go ahead.
Of the franchise to know what improvements they could make. Riding on dogs is pretty fun.
Yeah, and the wire bug and like riding on Doggo. You know, I know you could ride on things in World, but like I never fully knew how to do it. So like people would ride away, and now it's just like, yo, whole day, you're on your thing, you're riding. Yeah, and just like quality of life multiplayer stuff, you know, which isn't really something you add, it's just something you iterate on. But I'm actually really impressed with the Switch performance. You know, you're talking about loading and everything, but just the ease at which we connected. Not fully used to that with Switch. You know, it's kind of like rolling the dice every time, but it worked on the launch day of all days too. It worked without a hiccup, really. Yeah,
I'm not going to say I haven't had any problems. I've had a couple of hiccups, but for the most part, it has been super smooth and easy, you know, and just getting together with people has been great.
There is one thing that I've been thinking of a lot because I'm playing lots of Avengers, which is a flawed game in many ways. And this is something that really started to come up in my brain when I played Anthem for review, and I played that at launch. And something I thought about in Destiny as well. As I remember like first playing Destiny 1 and jumping in and being like, oh, like patrols, what are these? And it's like, oh, I'm just kind of in the environment. Like I'm just kind of roaming around. Like there's not a thing I need to do to get me out of here. I'm just kind of in the environment. This is fun. And Anthem like tried that, and it's never really worked whenever I've seen people attempt it, or it's not as special or interesting really, like as much as it should be, or as much as going into a specific group or a specific battle with friends or doing a raid or something like that. But like I've always been intrigued, and I think Monster Hunter is a franchise that could attempt this, is if I'm jumping in and it's just like, you know what, I'm playing a couple hours of this game, I don't really care what I do. I really don't. You know, if I could go fight a big monster, small monster, I could harvest, I could just whatever. I just want to get in this game. And it'd be interesting to have something like Monster Hunter where like that's what you just go into the world. And like if you meet up with people, cool, you can go do what they're doing, kind of like Destiny when you have these random events that pop up. It's just there is kind of this, you start to see the seams of those systems of stuff that people have built. Like, you know, as much as fun as it is to randomly encounter stuff in Destiny, there are also times where just nothing's happening and you're like riding around your bike like, okay, this sucks. And so like it seems like a very difficult thing to try to pull off to make everyone happy at all times. But that's always fascinated me, of like, you know, taking like an MMO structure and taking kind of like the quests or the really kind of rigid nature of it, and just having like a world that you can just go explore, and all the cool stuff will find you. You know, I wonder if
a mind-boggling omission for Avengers, Jones, is not having public patrols like Destiny did 10 years ago. It's like, run. What?
Yeah.
For Monster Hunter, that could be kind of cool. Just like, hey, queue up to this zone. You know, maybe. Because like you can't ever have really more than 4 people, right, Ben? So I'm wondering if you would just queue up into a zone and there would be 3 other people, or if it would be like a special patrol zone where only this zone you can patrol in, and there's maybe 8 people or something. Or I see where you're going there, Jones. I like it.
I feel like what you're talking about is kind of like Iceborne's Guiding Lands, where like different people, depending on what you had leveled up, like different monsters would be in different areas, and kind of the way that it would work is you just kind of go in with your friends and you would just continually hunt monsters, and new ones would appear, or you would lure other ones out. And so it was kind of like an endless hunt in a way.
Yeah. Good stuff.
But with Rise specifically, I think I've just enjoyed the exploration so much, and it's been fun, like being like, oh, I wonder what's up there, and then figuring it out. But once you know what's there, like you've kind of got it. And for most of the quests, right, you have a 50-minute time limit, and a lot of times you just don't need that much time. You just don't. You're done in like 10 or 15 minutes. And I was thinking, like, exploring is so much fun. What if there was like some sort of like activity, platforming, I don't know, just like something where it's like, if I do this in the hunt, it's going to take time and it's going to take away from, me completing the quest, and it'll be like some sort of challenge, something that isn't maybe hunting, but I'll get extra rewards or something. And I think that sort of sense, like while you're hunting, like having things that maybe you can do if you want, but like put you at risk somehow, could be kind of cool.
I like that.
Like skulls in Halo, just some way you can make things tougher. If you like blow a cave open and all these bats come flying out, it's like, now we got to deal with those, but we'll
some
get
loot in
more
cave.
XP for finishing it, or some cool achievement, or because I like that dangerous element where some other monster will come charging in, and then it's like, okay, do I want to mount this thing? Do I want to kill it too? Do I want to, it'd be neat to like play all of those against each other. I think it's just the continuous nature of it. It's like, you brought up, what you said about Avengers, Huber, was just like when I finish a mission in Avengers and then have to queue up another one, it's like, this felt like 5 minutes that I didn't need to waste. Like it felt like I don't need that triumphant, you did it. It's like, I don't want to leave this world. I want to stay in here the whole time I'm playing. It's like, yeah, it's quaint to go back to the town, but it'd be fun to have the option, to like, I don't want to leave. I want to stay here and possibly invite other people to come and go or jump into their worlds, or I don't know. Saying that, having no idea about how to really iron that out. So again, everybody's happy, but it would be fun to it'd be dangerously addictive for me to play a game like this, where when I boot it up, there's no question what I'm going to do. Just like, all right, boot it up and then boop, do the thing. And then I'm instantly in the game and running around and, collecting loot. I'm not even paying attention to what I'm getting. And then, I do that for 2.5 hours straight. And then when I'm done at the end of the night, it's like, all right, what did I get?
Yeah,
and then you parse through all your stuff and I'm like, oh, okay. I make some armor and then I got my gains. All right, I'm out. As opposed to like, I spent that 2.5 hours doing like 4 things and got maybe 1 item from one thing. I don't know. I also don't play a lot of Monster Hunter, so
not yet. They might have done
some
eve
right.
of Brandon Jones' obsession.
But there's a little horde mode in there too. These are disciplines that have been experimented with before. It'd just be interesting to have. And shout out again to Destiny, who's kind of broke open that mold of. There were modes I remember jumping in Destiny 1, and I'm like, what is this? And it's neat to do that in a multiplayer game. To like, now you're like, I'm not really sure how this works. This is new. And Anthem, like, almost there. You almost had it. In Monster Hunter Stories, you're a monster rider. Like you battle with, a large monster. And I wonder if like somehow you could implement that mechanic in regular Monster Hunter, where it's like, okay, maybe like if you don't hunt, say, a Barioth, right? So you won't get any of the Barioth gear. You kind of lock yourself out of that, but you go out of your way to like kind of build up its trust and befriend it. The reward that you get is now you can take Barioth out in hunts with you, and
oh my god,
and it can assist you.
Please,
that would be cool.
Please let me take a Barioth out.
Yeah, it'd be fun. I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing here.
Events, like ever since Fortnite made me obsessed with like events. That's just something I pay more attention to. Earlier when we were talking about Curse of the Dead Gods, like randomly this game that shouldn't even have events has really cool events. Monster Hunter World had some awesome support.
Yeah.
So like I just struggle to even ask for, or like I struggle to like think of what I would want, because it's just like, well, just keep adding the more monsters. Like it's so obvious, but it's like, really, that's all. That's all I need.
Let me throw this at you, like, because I think this also applies to guest characters in fighting games as well. But for Fortnite, I feel like for as broad as they're getting with these inclusions, I mean, it feels like everyone is in Fortnite now, right? Like, I think you said it was the Smash Ultimate of BRs or something like that. But
of real life.
do you think that these crossovers really help get people who maybe wouldn't otherwise be interested or don't play Fortnite into the game? Like, have you seen that in your own experience?
Oh yeah.
And I think that would be cool in Monster Hunter to have those events that, you know, maybe have nothing to do with Capcom, maybe nothing to do with Monster Hunter. And, you know, I don't want them to like completely overtake the game, but every once in a while, just drawing new people in and getting them excited for something that they may not otherwise be familiar with would be
like Animal Crossing is one of the biggest games on the planet. There's got to be some kind of handshake deal here, some kind of collaboration one way or the other, you know, stuff like that.
It's funny. The thing that's funny about Fortnite, Huber, is like, how long has Fortnite been around? Like 6 years? Like, people have said it's dead the whole time it's been alive.
Dead game.
Like,
dead
but
game.
like literally, it's like I've literally heard that consistently at the same tone the whole time, and it just not going anywhere. But like, its fan base, like Rip Fortnite was trending the other day. It's like, good one. Like, you know, like, yeah, it might not be as popular someday as it is now, but it's still, they're still good.
It's funny because I just got a new phone and I haven't been keeping up with Fortnite news, and I was like, I wonder if Fortnite is back on the App Store yet. Nope.
No,
it's not.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
they burnt that bridge big time.
Yeah, more events for Monster Hunter. But like, there's a fine line between like DLC and events. Like I don't know, like you can add more monsters and stuff, but maybe in between all the big content drops of monsters and stuff, just weird remixed modified hunts I think would be cool.
Yeah.
Because like the arena's cool, Ben, because it's like, use this build to take out this monster.
Yeah.
Which is cool. It's making me play
pushes
a different
out of your
way.
comfort zone, yeah.
Yeah, but like some kind of middle ground as to where it's giving me that out of my comfort zone, making me play a different way, but like also more in line with just the traditional hunting, not like a specific arena.
I wonder if it could be sort of like what Brandon was saying, where like maybe they'll take away like one of your moves or something, or like some restrictions, or like, you know, you can't use mega potions or something, or you can't use null berries, or just like some sort of modifiers that you could do for different things.
Or it just gets crazy difficult. You know, like you're talking about that 50-minute clock where it's just like by the time you hit 45 minutes, like you're dead. Yeah. It's not like there's so many things that come out, or just like, or like lava pours out, or something. You know, it's like Levolution. Like it just gets a lot more hazardous to be around. And like if you stick around and you can survive through that, then you know you get more gains.
Go.
Also PvP.
Yeah, I was thinking about PvP, and then
I love PvP. I don't know how it would work in this game.
I don't know how it would work.
Well, if you can ride things now, you know, if there's so much manipulation of monsters, like some person, like if there's like a rival clan and there's like two camps against each other in one game, it's like a thing where like you were saying with the tower defense, if there was someone with this kind of like in a Tetris, 99 kind of way, where like there was another team that was like flooding things.
Yeah, you could do that. That might be interesting. Or like wyvern riding battles. Maybe you could do something like that. I think they've done such a great job adding new mechanics that make the weapons that they already have feel different. But at the same time, like at this point, I would just be really excited if they added a new weapon as well. You know, it's
time.
It feels like it's time for me.
It's time.
Yeah. And I don't know what it would be, I guess.
Do they have shurikens?
Your buddies can use shurikens, but I think you can throw kunai and rise, which I've not done. But it's not like a main, it's not like a...
Do they have claws?
They don't, no.
What if you could like climb with the claws too or something?
I think some Monster Hunter that we didn't get had weapons that we never got. Maybe Tonfa or something. But anyway, like... No, we don't have claws. Yeah. In Monster Hunters that we have like easy access to, we don't have claws.
Yakuza crossover, give me a baseball bat. Let's go.
Sure. Oh, Yakuza crossover would be amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Be fun if they're like boomerangs, maybe? Something that was like a projectile and a melee. So they're like knives kind of, but then if you're farther away, you can throw them. And it's kind of like Leviathan Axe, where like once you throw them, they inhabit the world, so they can maybe like stick into the monster and do a damage over time, and then like you have to manually like recall them back, or maybe if there's like a string attached to them, they help you kind of grapple on. Or...
I just feel like the team at Capcom is so incredibly creative, because like Insect Glaive and like Charge Blade are just really cool out of the box weapons. So I would kind of want them to do something that is like, I never could have thought of that. But I don't know exactly what that would be. We said
the Wirebug is a 10 out of 10.
The Wirebug is a 10 out of 10.
God, I love it.
It's. I feel like it's almost something that they can't take away now.
I love the mechanic of the dash too. Having to get hit to do it, so it's like, okay, now's my window, now's my chance.
The Wirefall, you mean the escape?
The escape one.
Yeah,
I love that move.
I love it too. I just think it's a little too generous. I think it should cost 2 things instead of 1.
I like that.
I think that would like totally fix the problem. But
yeah, good call.
Because I like that some of your Silkbind moves cost 2, and so you have to kind of use them pretty effectively. But yeah, the Wirefall, very powerful. Cool. I feel like we didn't get a clear answer for what we want the future of Monster Hunter to be, but at the same
Bowser.
time,
Please, Bowser. That's really all I want. It makes perfect sense, Ben.
It does.
It's on Nintendo. We just had Bowser's Fury. Put that version in. Like, let's go. If there was ever a time for Bowser.
Not themed at all to the world, literally just as cartoon.
The thing is, Hubert, I think Capcom would be all for it, but what you would need to do to make that work, I don't think Nintendo would let you do. Like, is Nintendo really going to let us cut off Bowser's tail? Probably not. Probably not.
Just Bowser's
tails like, on the ground. That would be awesome. I just don't think they would let us do it. I wish they would, though. All right. Are we ready for some emails?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I miss ammo. I've been playing a lot of ranged games where they're just like, oh, you have infinite ammo. It doesn't matter. It's like kind of nice to be like, all right, load up a specific ammo type. Here we go. Oh, it's gone, but it was worth it.
What I feel a great shame in Doom Eternal when like I step away and I come back to Doom Eternal and I try to reload and I'm like, nope, that's not what you do. This is not that kind of game. You don't reload.
Can I quickly research?
Yeah, do you mind if I...
Really quick.
I'll read the email, and then I'll catch you up when you get back. Brandon and I can...
Great. I'll cover for you.
Our first email comes in from Brandon, who says... Brandon. Hello, everyone. With recent reports Sony is shutting down the digital stores for the PS3, PSP, and Vita, I'm left dismayed at how something I care a great deal for has become all the harder. Game preservation. With no way to download older games to the first 3 home PlayStations and their 2 handhelds, it's going to be more difficult to try, replay, and discover many old classics and hidden gems without going online to eBay or Amazon to find a ridiculously expensive physical version. While Xbox has been great at establishing one unifying ecosystem across all 3 generations and having the ability to play older games, Sony seems to not care about their catalog if it's at least 2 generations old. Nintendo is also guilty of this right now, with 3D All-Stars no longer available now. So panel, do you think it would benefit Sony and Nintendo if they moved the games on these stores to their own all-in-one one-stop digital shop, allowing people to purchase, download, and play games from the late 2000s and earlier, while understanding it takes money and server upkeep to maintain such stores for perhaps marginal returns? Do you think Sony or Nintendo will ever care about preserving their ever-aging roster of games? Thank you for taking my email if you do, and stay easy, fellow allies.
Do you want the happy answer?
Yeah, I feel like my answer's pretty sad too. So maybe the happy answer would be good.
Yeah. Sorry. This is just a pure nostalgia play. This is literally just like, not to glass half empty it, but I do wonder if this is something Microsoft is doing because they really truly 100% believe in it, or if they're like, hey, Sony's not. What if it was like, if it's kind of like an obvious one of those things, they're like, we can't sell as many consoles as they do, so how can we... What games can we beat them at? Like what can we be known for that will come up in a conversation that they're like, hey, why isn't their competitor doing that? But I don't see. If I was in an elevator, I don't know how the hell I would sell to somebody at Sony or Nintendo that like, you need to do this. Like they don't. Like you would be satisfying literally fans of like EA does not need to make another SSX. I wish they would. But they don't, or they don't need to remaster Tricky. But like, I think they'd make a lot. And It'd make me very happy.
Huber, we're talking about the sadness of the PS3, PSP, and Vita stores shutting down, and like if Sony and Nintendo should, have a way for you to easily access, their back catalog. That's the general gist of the email. My answer is very, very sad in the sense that not a lot of people care about old games, unfortunately. Like, if you're listening to this show, if you're watching Frame Trap, you probably do. I certainly do. Right. I'm playing old games all the time, but I think on like a massive level, outside of maybe rare exceptions, people want new games. People buy these systems for the big AAA, heavily marketed, amazing graphics sort of thing. And that's oversimplifying it a little bit, but people tend to play in large numbers what their friends are playing, what their friends are into. That is what they focus on. And from a business standpoint, I don't think the incentive is there, and it's a huge bummer. I love the virtual console. I love that I can download so many PS2 and PS1 classics on my PS3. I have done so. I've spent large sums of money, but the business incentive just isn't there. Plus, with how popular remasters and remakes have been, I think that is a preferred method of going forward, because the benefit you have with remasters and remakes versus something like a virtual console is a virtual console, things tend to get lost because ideally, you have a lot of options. When you're doing a specific remaster or remake, you can focus it on that one product. You can get everybody excited, like, hey, we're remaking this one thing. It's not like we're putting it on this service that has a bunch of other similar games. It is, it kind of is separating it from the pack. And I think maybe it makes a little bit more business sense as a result.
Yeah, it's funny you were talking about people want newer games. I was watching the Future Game Showcase on Twitch, and, Axiom Verge 2 shows up, and just because of the visuals, everyone is like, boomer game, dad game, garbage, like 1990s called, they want your game back.
That hurts my fucking soul.
Yeah, it was insane. And then the next game they showed just visually looked newer. It was like this game where you're like flying around on zip wires, like fighting. Didn't look at special, but everyone was like, oh, okay, oh yeah, oh, in. Everyone was just like in, because it's like realistic looking, higher budget visuals versus old looking pixelated visuals. It's just crazy.
Dude, it hurts me so much, but I play a lot of old games, and sometimes when I play like something like an NES game or like a PS1 game or something, my wife will be like, this just looks so old. And I'll be sitting there going like, no, it's still gorgeous. What are you talking about? But I imagine probably a lot more people share her opinion than they do mine, because
sure.
Yeah, this is I lost sleep over this. I'm losing sleep. Okay? Because this is honestly potentially devastating for game conservation. Like, some of these games are only available on these systems. Like, PlayStation 3 has so many games held hostage where the only way to play that is PS3, or if it's on PS Now, like, going that way, which is really, really rough for 95% of people. Right. Where you look over across the aisle at film, and you have people like Martin Scorsese who are like championing film preservation, saving movies that would otherwise be destroyed or lost to time. And I'm worried about future generations of video games, and just a lot of these games just being lost, just being straight up gone. Like, if you don't have your hard copy, you're not playing a lot of these games. So it is scary. And like, PlayStation has one of the most legendary, if not like next to Nintendo, has so many first party games, has so many exclusive, legendary, industry defining games. So I really, really hope they're looking across over at Microsoft, who is crushing it, killing it with all of their backwards compatibility and everything. So I hope Sony has a plan. I hope I hope this shutting this down is part of a grander plan. The optimist, the hope in me is that that's what they're doing, and not just like, oh, nobody wants that, it's old tech, focus on new shit, shut it down. I hope there's a grand plan for this, because there's too many games. Metal Gear Solid 4, Infamous, Resistance, Kills, like so many damn games. Ratchet and Clank HD, like that collection, all these HD remasters, so many video games. Dragon Quest 8, dude, PS2 games.
Something that I will say is, well, caring about game preservation is absolutely a noble cause and something to be concerned about. I totally agree. I do feel like we're in much better state these days than we were, where it's like, yeah, in the NES days, like, they just didn't even include their real names in the credits. Like, people actually weren't getting legit credit for what they were doing.
And that,
aliases.
Like, you hear stories of like, yeah, we just like lost the source code. Like, I feel like hopefully at least people are talking about game preservation seriously. And I think there are people, and it's not perfect, right? But I think there are pockets of people that are trying to maintain things or keep an eye on things.
Yeah, I hope. There needs to be that champion. That's why I mentioned Scorsese, is because here's this industry leader championing this cause. It would like fall to someone like Keeley or something. Like, no, don't want to put the pressure on him, but it's like someone needs to pick up that cause.
Keeley exists to be pressured by us. That's our jobs.
You were gonna say something, Jones?
Well, just the PS4 to PS5, the Xbox One to Series X. This feels like a easier, smoother transition compared to old gens. From this point
going forward, it seems a lot easier now.
PS2 to PS3 was 4x3 to 16x9. That was such a huge thing that you can instantly tell when you go back and play older games. And the PS3 architecture is so infamously like unique and weird, so it was tough, near impossible in a lot of cases to play PS3 games on PS4, whereas just like it seemed almost to a fault where like sometimes on PS5 you can't tell, like it's like, oh, I've been playing the PS4 version this whole time, I didn't know that with Avengers, like they were like, oh, the PS5 version comes out next year, I'm like, that's not what I'm playing, wait, what? So I think, thankfully, in the future, I think once we move on to PS6 and Xbox, whatever, I think looking back to the PS4 era will be a little more accessible than PS3 360 is now.
That's
because as good as Microsoft is doing, like I found, Bossman got me hot and bothered about the Captain America game on 360 that I was like, oh yeah, I never played that. I think I want to play that, and like it's hard. I've really been kind of weighing my options about how I can make that happen, and it's tricky. And so, as good as one company does, you're always going to find some barrier. And I've floated this idea before, and a lot of people just kind of like chuckled at it. But it's like I would love my own console that all it does is play PS1, PS2, and PS3. That'd be fun. If it was just like a system that, I'd pay, $200, $300 for that. If I could just put in an old disc and it's great and it's online and everything. And like, I wonder if they like really did some big promotion across the board.
That's what's a little scary. Like you mentioned that, Jones, just about putting your disc in. Like, dude, discs don't even last forever. Like some of my discs, are choppy, dude. And I feel like I take really good care of them. So the fact that the digital store too is going down is just like, hopefully they got something cooking, something planned. Brutal. Like that's the worst feeling. You just want to play a game and it's like, sorry, can't.
How is Metal Gear Solid 4 locked to the PS3? How did that even happen? How did it even happen? All right.
Yeah.
Our next email comes in from Eric. I love the way he opens this. Benjamin and his merry men. I play a lot of co-op games with my fiance and friends. It's my favorite type of experience. I'll take it over single player any day. We all have Game Pass Ultimate, which is the best thing to have happen to gamers in my lifetime. There's a cornucopia of co-op picks on there for us. Vermintide 2, Remnant from the Ashes, Plants vs. Zombies, Battle for Neighborville, shout out Huber, Drake Hollow, all the Halos, all the Gears, Sea of Thieves, Halo Wars, Minecraft Dungeons, State of Decay 2, Deep Rock Galactic, Mass Effect 3's Horde Mode, etc., etc. And soon, Outriders, The Ascent, and Dark Tide. Dark Tide, baby.
Dark Tide.
We're pretty much...
Why are we not playing Dark Tide right now?
We're pretty much in a state of... It's not On Game Pass, we're not considering it because getting all 4 players in our group to buy it is now a tall order when we have so many options in our subscription. There's always one who doesn't want to commit. What do you think this means for upcoming co-op games on Xbox like Back 4 Blood and Dark Alliance, which launch on the same day, by the way, that aren't going to be on Game Pass day one, that we know of at least?
So Outriders, this is a beautiful example. This is a turning point. Are you ready for a turning point in the industry? This game is on Game Pass, and it is cross-play with every system that it's on. So if you get this game on Game Pass, you can play it with someone on PlayStation. That is amazing. Cross-play on all systems going forward. Doesn't matter where you're playing. That person has it on Game Pass. This person has it on PC or PlayStation, whatever.
Yeah.
Essential. Outriders is doing that. And for a co-op game, essential. Like, so cool. So cool. So you can all just group up wherever you are.
Yeah.
Love it.
This is a really interesting email because I never thought about co-op and Game Pass in this way. And I feel like I'm primarily a single player kind of guy. I feel like I spend most of my time playing single player games, but I've run into situations with old friends from my home state we just want to spend time together and we want to hang out. And it like, this person's right. We absolutely run into the situation of oh, I have this, but I don't have this. Or oh, I don't know if I want to get that because it's kind of expensive and I don't know if I'll be able to put the time into it. And so that is absolutely a thing that happens. And I think Game Pass, not to say that necessarily everyone has Game Pass, but I could see that happening where you kind of all have it and you can just immediately download it and get into it. Mm-hmm. And more broadly, like you were talking about, Huber, the future is right now. And the longer games and companies go without embracing it, mm-hmm. the more irritated I'm going to get and the more pushback I think in general there's going to be. We have seen now that cross progression and cross play is possible. A solid number of games are doing it. Just make it happen. It actually really pisses me off with Monster Hunter Rise specifically because it's coming to PC later, and I already see people that want to play, but they want to wait for the PC version, and we're not sure if there's going to be cross progression. Mm-hmm. They haven't gotten out and announced that, and it's just this shouldn't even be a question. I wish we were at a point where we could just I want everybody to be able to play on as many things as possible, and to make it as convenient as possible to get together and enjoy games.
Yeah, I feel like Outriders is going to thrive because of this being on Game Pass and having cross-play, cross-progression, a demo that carries over your progress. Whatever they're doing over there, they got their finger on the pulse because they're giving everyone what they want. Here's a demo, your progress saves, you can play with everyone, we're on game. Yes. So, shout out, Outriders. Future multiplayer Outriders. Games, do that, please.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I feel like in such a competitive space where games are finding constant new reasons to take up your time, right? Mm-hmm. They're living games, that every little advantage you can give your game to make somebody choose it over something else is essential.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. All right. Our last email comes in from Morgan, the Minecraft Legacy game. Hello, Ben and panel. Sony and Nintendo have had popular games that feature their histories very prominently. I speak of Astro's Playroom and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I have to say, as a fan, it is delightful to see the legacy of these console companies. My question is, where is Microsoft's legacy game? What would the panel like to see from a game that highlights the history of Microsoft in gaming?
This is going to be so harsh, but I'm sorry. There's not enough people. There's not enough icons on Microsoft. I'm sorry. Gears, Halo, Forza, dude. This is the most brutal you'll ever see me be, but name 5 or 10 Microsoft icons for a game like this. I'm sorry, you can't do it.
Yeah, I think the other thing, and this isn't strictly true, because even in Smash Brothers you have kind of unlikely combinations of things, but even just thinking about Gears and Halo, which are so associated with the Xbox, those are incredibly serious games.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, they're very gritty, grounded, M-rated games. And so, like, not that you couldn't do a fun celebration. You definitely could. But I don't think it comes as naturally. Like, you know, Mario and Kirby hanging out, that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, that just fits. Those are games that don't really take themselves too seriously. They appeal to all ages, that kind of a thing. And so I think I just think the things, a lot of the things that Microsoft has under its belt, most iconically, I guess, don't really fit there. But I would kind of, like, you did have Rare Replay, which...
Well, like, Banjo is Microsoft technically, but, like, nah, he's Nintendo, Smash. Like, that's just the vibe. Banjo, I think of Smash and Nintendo. I don't think of Microsoft.
Well, because Banjo's most beloved games are on Nintendo platforms. Yeah. Same thing with, like, Battletoads. Like, I don't really consider Battletoads Xbox.
Sure. Yeah. Or a Perfect Dark even. It's like, I guess, you know, like
Hellblade now, Senua. I mean, the first one was cross.
Sure.
It was on other systems, so.
Would you
like Frank West?
I wouldn't mind like a Flintstones and the Jetsons, like just a one-off what if Halo Gears collab would be fun. You know, just some weird. Like first-person Gears and third-person Halo, and like what? You know, like it'd be fun if there's some time slip or something, like those two worlds clashed.
I feel like,
I mean, don't
as
take it too
brutal
seriously,
as I'm being, I feel like still though, with the amount of investments, you know, we were talking about over the last couple of years with Microsoft buying all those studios and doing everything that on that side. That's planting the seeds to get more characters and icons for a potential game like this to build your legacy.
I feel like you saw this exactly with PlayStation All-Stars as well, where it's like you're just going to be compared in a negative way. Like PlayStation All-Stars was ruined because everybody's just like, this is just a worse Smash. Like, why would I ever play this over Smash? Like this, you know, this isn't. And so, Smash is so good and so defined, has been around for so long, where it's like, if Microsoft is like, we're going to make our own Smash, I don't think everyone's immediately going to be like, that's an awesome idea. You know,
I'm always down for some sick collaboration, though, Ben. Let's go.
Yeah, I like sick collaborations as well, but I don't think, what I'm trying to say is, I don't think every company needs the exact same thing that is important to other companies. Like,
if you make a Smash game, it's going to be like, oh, it's just a worse Smash, or like a Battle Royale, oh, it's just a worse Fortnite or Apex.
Yeah. Right, yeah, and it's like,
totally.
And in fact, I think the game industry is already like, that's a huge problem. Like, I get so tired of like some new fad taking over gaming, and then like all these companies coming out of the woodwork to be like, well, here's our version of it that is like usually less interesting than the thing that they're copying. And so I don't know, I think I want to come to Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo for different things. But you're right, Huber, sick collaborations are fun. I can't deny that, and when done well, they're a blast. We were just talking about Monster Hunter and how sick those collaborations would be, so that's, like, I agree with that too.
Seeing Kratos with an axe in the Fortnite video, and then Master Chief coming in with the assault rifle, like shooting. I'm just like, ah! I mark out so hard for this kind of thing.
Man,
like,
you're making me think of the like reveal video that they did for Heroes of the Storm, where all the Blizzard characters were fighting each other. I was like, this is so sick. This is so sick.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, maybe it does need something, but I think I'm just not as attached to Microsoft characters.
What if we meet in the middle? What if a Battle Royale mode, or whatever it may be, in Halo Infinite has like Microsoft legacy things or something? You know, you kind of make this Microsoft celebration within a Halo or a Gears, you know?
Yeah,
you
but
add these events and these collaborations or something.
That's kind of the thing, though, is it's like thinking of an appropriate number of like Microsoft legacy things. It's like, what do you throw in there? Like you've got,
you make your Warthog a Forza car. I don't.
Yeah, it's like it's not that there isn't.
Bethesda does that. Bethesda likes to have Easter eggs from their other
they do
franchises. That is a family of franchises that does kind of poke fun at each other or throw in little references here and there. I think the main reason why Smash is just impossible to emulate is that it's like a lot of these characters already hung out. Like they all golfed together, they all karted together, they all, so like them all fighting together even when it first came out in 64, like wasn't that weird? Like like a fifth of the characters are all Mario. Like they're all from his world. And so it just, even when like Sony tried it, it's like there's zero cohesion. There's not even like a batch of characters that can kind of be the root of this, and then everyone else is added on top. But as long as you can still see like Donkey Kong and Mario and Samus and like these characters, you just kind of feel like they belong together. Then it's not that weird when you throw, or even comical than when you throw in Master Chief or when you throw in Solid Snake or somebody that you're like, okay, this works kind of, sure.
Yeah, Nintendo's they got the head start. They were doing games and Smash before Xbox existed, so just a little more time for Microsoft. They can get these characters. There's got to be more than Master Chief and Marcus Phoenix, damn it.
I also feel like Sakurai is Smash. Like I feel like that man has given his entire being to making Smash feel a very, very, very specific way. Yeah, but I don't know. Interesting questions. Fun frame trap. Thank you so much to
great question. Because that's such a trend, Ben.
It is
these
cross them over.
Avengers Assemble moments.
Yeah. Boy, Avengers changed a lot. Anyway, thank you so much to my panelists, Brandon Jones and Michael Huber. If you'd like to send in an email address to Frametrap, the address is askeasyallies@gmail.com. One more time, that is askeasyallies@gmail.com. And again, we are supported on Patreon. We do rely on that support. So if you like us, go there, patreon.com/easyallies to consider contributing. And thank you if you already are. We greatly appreciate it. Until next time.